and control of what I do. And this time I'm gonna do it my way. I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. Are we ready? I am. 'Cause it's all about control. And I've got lots of it.
Welcome to my stream, everybody. Well, we bitch about coworkers and talk dirty about people we don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes people and sometimes about people we do know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Hmm. Hello and welcome in. Let me get my stuff going here. Oh Jesus! Turn that down just a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay. And there should not be no bleeps, no creeps, no sweeps, because I got that taken care of too, so it should be good. And I'm going to attempt to have a actual bot in my chat in YouTube as well, but I found out it's going to take some time because I got to get the commands imported. I have to get the playlist imported. Not that it really matters about the playlist so much, but at the same time, it's like, So I may just disable that there and then just play the music from here and not worry about that part. But basically, I got to import every single fucking command over to that bot. So it's like, so I know what I'm doing tomorrow. um, but yes, today is Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. I can't believe this month is almost over. Jesus. Just want to give a few heads up. We have got SmackDown coming up on Friday. We have main event on Saturday night main event coming on Saturday night, of course. And of course, we've got Raw Monday and SmackDown on Friday, and the Royal Rumble on the 31st of January. Now, the thing with the Royal Rumble, I must give a PSA on that. Yes, it is going to air early because it is in Saudi Arabia. Not going to get into the what I could say about that. But sadly, I have to work, and I think it's probably too far gone for me to request off. Plus, I need the money anyway, so I'm not going to bitch too heavy. The gang said that they were going to show it later in the Discord, which it would actually be better for everybody involved because that way people can get stuff done. They can go and do things during the day and get shit out of the way, and then Bunny's going to show it later that day. So after I get home, so I won't miss it. But I will say this: no spoilers, please, in my Discord or anybody else's Discord related with wrestling. Please do not post spoilers. And try your best if you're going to be participating in our watch along later on Saturday. Please, 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 please try to avoid social media for that day because you will get hit, unfortunately. So hopefully this will be the last of this until next year. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mind the overseas shows like Raw and SmackDown. That's cool. It's whatever. But having a pay-per-view air early, I was just such a pain in the ass. I take that back. We're probably going to have a few clashes too, so those are going to be early as well. I'm sure. I don't have a full calendar of events, but I just wanted to give you guys fair warning. I will also be streaming on Friday. We'll be doing a story, whatever story mode game I will decide. That will be the story mode game going forward until we actually finish it. It doesn't matter if it's this year, next year, whatever. It is going to be what I focus on. So I'm going to take some serious decision making because it's going to be a game I will have to deal with every other Friday. I am seriously considering Assassin's Creed Origins because I've never finished that fucking game. I am seriously considering basically, I have a huge list of things I could actually go from. So I'm going to give it some thought. There's also Fallout 4, which I've never actually fucking finished. And it would be kind of nice to do. So I may actually do that. Fallout 4 I do enjoy quite a bit, but I have never, ever finished the game. And so that maybe it's one of those things that I would love to see the end game on it. I have actually been avoiding. I do follow some Fallout lore folks, because I've always wanted to know more lore about the game franchise in general, especially because of the series. And I really want to, and I've been actually trying to avoid spoilers for the end of that game now, and even though that game is like hella old at this point. But I honestly think I'm heavily leaning toward it because Assassin's Creed Origins has been out for a while, yes. But I can always take up that one later. But I'm actually more intrigued with the Fallout franchise of late because of the series, because there's so much lore behind that game. And I honestly think it would be a great addition to, and I understand, play the first, you don't have to play them in order. But sometimes, I've been considering pulling out Fallout and Fallout 2 and Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas just so we can, do all those. But I have always loved playing Fallout 4, but sadly, the world builder in me gets to the point where I'm creating the first sanctuary, and I just get stalled out, and I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to work on this. And it's like this whole house, Apocalypse Edition. So I am seriously considering playing that game from scratch. I am going. Yes, it's going to be modded. Because reasons. Because fuck that. And I'm seriously considering that game for Friday. And actually it could turn into a Fallout Friday. It would be awesome. And then I could probably, like I said, and do my simulation game every other Friday. So keep that content fresh on that day. Content coming up, Midnight Suns Monday, because I will be home for once on Monday. I'm gonna figure out something to play on Tuesday. I don't know what it'll be. It may be just a variety Tuesday, maybe something I just throw together at the last minute. Wednesday, of course, will be more story time like today, and then sadly I will have to work Friday and Saturday, unfortunately. But we'll see, and we'll see from there. Hopefully, I will get a call back about that other job, and streams will definitely be recalibrated if that's the case, because it is a full-time 8 to 6 kind of job, and so I will probably be like a late night streamer after that, unfortunately, and rotating weekends. So therefore, most of my streaming would probably be done on Saturdays. So, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I think that's going to be everything for me for right now. So let's get to it, shall we? I'm already running late, and for that I do apologize. All right. Let's get officially started here. Welcome to Storytime with Cyn Summer Knight Part 2. For those of you listening and enjoying, feel free to grab your favorite blanket, favorite warm beverage, and get all nice and cozy. If you do not live in a climate where it is conducive to be cozy, get you a nice fan and everything above, and just fake it. And just pretend. If you possibly can. I'm not endorsing heat stroke of any sort of fashion. And just as a PSA, all sound alerts and blurps and Tangea will be suspended for the duration of the reading. And if you are a new follower to this channel or a new subscriber, please hold off on following or subscribing until after the reading portion of the stream. I would do dearly appreciate that. Unfortunately, Twitch alerts do not follow the same rules as the alert rules I have set up in OBS, apparently. So I can't help it if there's a raid, so I can't warn against raids, so you never know. So I think it is now time for us to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. And as a quick synopsis of the story before the past 5 chapters, seems like Harry is up to his eyeballs in alligators yet again, because apparently the Red Court wants him as a personal sacrifice to prevent a war between them and the White Council. Let's begin. Cool. Chapter 6. Me, I said. Et la, Fortier. Feel the bite of my rapier wit. Yes, Duke Ortega writes that you, Wizard Dresden, are considered a criminal by the Red Court. In order to end this conflict, they wish to extradite you to an area of their designation for trial. A resolution that is perhaps distasteful, but may also be only just. He didn't get the last word out of his mouth before several dozen wizards around the auditorium rose to their feet with outraged shouts. Others stood up to cry out against them, and still more against them. The room descended into a cacophony of shouts, threats, and cussing among wizards. Cursing is a different matter altogether, in dozens of languages. The Merlin let people shout for a moment before he called in a ringing voice, "Order!" No one paid him any attention. He tried once more, then lifted his staff and slammed it down hard on the stage beside him. There was a flash of light, a roar of sound, and a concussion that slopped the water in my glass over the brim, spilling onto my flannel bathrobe. A couple of the wispier wizards were knocked down by the force of it, but in any case, the shouting ceased. "Order!" the Merlin demanded in exactly the same tone. "I am well aware of the implication of this situation, but lives are at stake, your lives and my own. We must consider our options with the utmost gravity." "What options?" Ebenezer demanded. "We are wizards. Not a herd of frightened sheep. Will we give one of our own to the vampires now and pretend like none of this has happened?" LaFortier snapped. You read Dresden's report. By his own admission, what the Red Court accuses him of is true. They have a just grievance. The situation was clearly a manipulation, a scheme to force Dresden into those actions in hope of killing him. Then he should have been smarter, LaFortier said, his tone flat. Politics is not a game for children. Dresden played and was beaten. It is time for him to pay the price that the rest of us may live in peace. Peace cannot be bought, Aileron. Injun Joe put a hand on Ebenezer's arm and spoke quietly. He murmured, Peace cannot be bought, Aileron. He remembered to LaFortier. History teaches that lesson. I learned it. You should have, too. LaFortier sneered at Injun Joe. I don't know what you're babbling about, but... I rolled my eyes and stood up again. He's talking about the American tribes losing their land to white settlers, dolt. I figured Ebenezer would leave the insult out of the translation, but there were more stifled snorts from brown robes around the room. And about Europe's efforts to appease Hitler before the Second World War. Both attempted to purchase peace with compromise, and both got swallowed up bit by bit. The Merlin glared at me. I did not recognize you, Wizard Dresden. Until you have the floor, you will refrain from such outbursts, or I'll have you removed from this meeting. I clenched my jaw and sat down. Sorry, here I was figuring we had responsibility to protect people. What was I thinking? We will protect no one, Wizard Dresden, if we're dead, the Merlin snapped. Be silent or be removed. Martha Liberty shook her head. Merlin, it seems we cannot simply hand one of our own over to the Red Court because of their demands. Despite past differences with council policy, Dresden is a fully ranked wizard, and given his performance in recent years, he seems well deserving of the title. I do not question his ability with the art, LaFortier put in. I question his judgment, his choices. He has played loose and reckless with his status as a wizard since Justin's death. The bald man turned his bulging eyes to the wizards in the theater. Wizard Harry Dresden, apprentice to the wizard Justin Demorne, apprentice to the wizard Simon Petrovich. I wonder how the Red Court learned enough of Petrovich's defenses to bypass him so completely, Dresden. I stared at LaFortier for a second, shocked. Did the man actually believe that I had learned about this Petrovich's defenses through Justin? Then sold a senior council member of the White Court to the vampires? Justin hadn't exactly taken me around much. Before I'd been put on trial, I didn't even know there was a White Council or other wizards at all. For that matter, I gave him the only answer I could. I laughed at him. Wheezy, quiet laughter. I shook my head. LaFortier's expression grew to outrage. You see, he demanded to the room, you see in what contempt he holds this council, his position as a wizard. Dresden has constantly endangered us all with his obtuse indiscretion, his reckless disregard for secrecy and security, even if it was someone else who betrayed Petrovich and his students to the Red Court. Dresden is as guilty of their murder as if he himself had cut their throats. Let the consequences of his decisions fall upon him. I rose and faced LaFortier, but glanced at the Merlin for permission to speak. He gave the floor to me with a grudging nod. Impossible, I said, or at least impractical. I have violated none of the laws of magic in this matter, which rules out a summary trial. I am a full wizard. By council law, I am therefore entitled to an in-depth investigation and trial, neither of which would provide any kind of workable solution anytime soon. The room rumbled with agreement when Ebenezer finished translating for me. That was hardly a surprise. If the council jammed a trial down my throat and then threw me to the wolves, it would set a deadly precedent, one that could haunt any wizard in the room, and they knew it. LaFortier jabbed a forefinger at me and said, Quite true, provided that you are, in fact, a full wizard. I move that the council vote immediately to determine whether or not Dresden's status as a wizard is valid. I remind the council that his appointment to his stole was a de facto decision based upon circumstantial evidence. He has never stood trial, never been judged worthy by his peers. Like hell I haven't, I answered him. I beat Justin Dumorne in a duel to the death. Is that not trial enough for you? Wizard Dumorne died, yes, LaFortier said. Whether he was defeated in an open duel or burned in his sleep is another matter. Entirely, Merlin. Entirely. Merlin, you have heard my motion. Let the council vote upon the status of this madman. Let us end this foolishness and return to our lives. Ouch. An angle I hadn't thought of. If I was stripped of my stole, it would be like a medieval noble having his title taken away. I would no longer be a wizard, politically speaking, and according to the council and laws of the courts, Between the various supernatural factions, the council would be obliged to turn over a fugitive murderer to the Red Court, which would mean, if I was fortunate, a horrible death. If I wasn't fortunate, it could be considerably worse. Given the kind of day I'd been having, my heart started skittering in my chest. The Merlin frowned and nodded. Very well, then. We vote upon the issue of the status of one Harry Dresden. Let those who would have him keep his stove vote for, and those who favor that his status be restored to that of apprentice vote against. All those in favor... Wait, Ebenezer objected. I invoke my right as a member of the senior council to reduce the vote to the senior council alone. The Merlin glared at Ebenezer. On what grounds? On the grounds that there exists a great deal of information about this matter of which the council at large is unaware. It would be impractical to attempt to explain it all. Seconded, Injun Joe murmured. Accord, Martha Liberty said. 3 votes yea, honored Merlin. Let the senior council make this decision. My heart started beating again. Ebenezer had made the right call. In a room full of frightened men and women, I wouldn't have had a prayer in keeping my stove. With the vote reduced to the senior council, maybe I had a fighting chance. I could almost see the Merlin trying to figure out a way out of it, but the council law was pretty clear on that point. The senior council members could always take a matter to a closed vote with 3 supporters. Very well, the Merlin said. The room rustled with whispers. My interests lie in preserving the health and safety of those upon this council, and of the communities of mankind in general. I vote against Dresden's ability as an initiate wizard of this council. The 48 jumped in, bulging eyes narrowed. As do I, and for the same reasons. Ebenezer spoke next. I've lived with this young man. I know him. He's a wizard. I vote to preserve his status. Yes, I'm making Ebenezer be kind of a little bit of a redneck. I'm sorry. Little brother chittered from his perch on Injun Joe's shoulder, and the old wizard stroked the raccoon's tail with one hand. My instincts about this man tell me that he comports himself as a wizard should. He gave a very mild glance to LaFortier. I vote in favor of his status. As do I, Martha Liberty added. That this is not a solution, it's merely an action. Harry 3, bad guys 2. I turned my eyes to Ancient Mai. The tiny woman stood with her eyes closed for a moment, her head bowed, and then she murmured, No wizard should blatantly misuse his status as a member of this council, nor should he be as irresponsible as Harry Dresden has been with the use of his art. I vote against his retention of wizard status. 3-3. I licked my lips and realized at just that moment I'd been too nervous and involved with the events to take note of the 7th member of the council. He was standing at the far left of the stage. Like the other wizards, he wore a black robe, but his purple, almost black stole had a deep cowl upon it as well, which covered his face entirely. The candlelit dimness masked in shadow whatever cowl didn't cover. He was tall, taller than me, 7 feet and thin. His arms were folded, hands inside the voluminous sleeves of his robe. Every eye in the place turned to the 7th member of the council, and a silence deeper than that of the nearby great lake enveloped the room. It lasted for long moments, then the Merlin prompted quietly, Gatekeeper, what say you? What's going on here? Give me a sec. Okay, there we go, clear that out. I leaned forward in my chair, my mouth dry. If he voted against me, I was betting a warden would zap me unconscious before the sound of his voice died away. After several of my frantic heartbeats, the gatekeeper spoke in a resonant, gentle voice. It rained toads this morning. A baffled silence followed. It became, a moment later, a baffled mutter. Gatekeeper, the Merlin said, his voice more urgent, how do you vote? With deliberation. The gatekeeper said, it rained toads this morning. That bears consideration. And for that, I must hear what word returns with the messenger. LaFortier eyed the gatekeeper and said impatiently, What messenger? What are you talking about? The back door of the theater burst open hard, and a pair of gray-cloaked wardens entered the theater. They each had a shoulder under one arm of a brown-robed young man. His face was puffy and swollen, and his hands looked like rotten sausages about to burst. Frost clung to his hair in a thick coating, and his robe looked like it had been dipped in water and then dragged behind a sled team from Anchorage to Nome. His lips were blue, and his eyes fluttered and rolled semi-incoherently. The wardens dragged him to the foot of the stage, and the senior council gathered at its edge, looking down. This is my courtier to the Winter Queen, Agent Mai stated. He insisted, one of the wards said. We tried to take him for treatment, but he got so worked up about it I was afraid he'd hurt himself, so we brought him to you, Ancient. Where'd you find him? The Merlin asked. Outside. Someone drove him to the car and pushed him out of it. We didn't see who it was. You get the license number? I asked. Both wardens turned to eye me. Then they both turned back to Merlin. Neither of them gotten it. Maybe the license plates were too new a concept. They weren't yet a whole century old, after all. Hell's bells, I muttered. I would have gotten it. Ancient Mai carefully descended from the stage and moved to the young man. She touched his forehead and spoke to him gently in what I presumed to be Chinese. The boy opened his eyes and babbled something broken and halting back at her. Ancient Mai frowned. She asked something else, which the boy struggled to answer, but it was apparently too much for him. His eyes sagged. He sagged, his eyes rolling back, and he went completely limp. The ancient touched his hair and said in Latin, "Take him. Care for him." The wardens laid the boy out on a cloak, then four of them carried him out, moving quickly. What did he say? Ebenezer asked. He beat me to it. He said that Queen Mab bade him to tell the council she would permit them travel through her realm, provided one request is fulfilled. The Merlin arched her brow, fingers touching his beard thoughtfully. What did she request? Ancient Mai murmured. She did not tell him. She said only that she already made her desires known to one of the council. The senior council withdrew together one side, speaking in low voices. I didn't pay them any mind. The ancient's translation of the messenger's words shocked me enough to keep me from so much as breathing, much less speaking. When I could move, I turned back to my table, leaned forward, and banged my head gently on the wooden surface several times. Damn it, I muttered, in time with the thumps. Damn it, damn it, damn it. A hand touched my shoulder, and I looked up to see the shadowed cowl of the gatekeeper standing apart from the rest of the senior council. His hand was covered by a black leather glove. I couldn't see any skin showing on him anywhere. You know what the reign of toads means, he said, his voice very quiet. His English had a gentle accent, something part British and part something else, Indian, Middle Eastern. I nodded. Trouble. Trouble. Though I could not see his face, I suspected a very slight smile had colored the word. The cowl turned toward the other senior council members and whispered, There isn't much time. Will you answer me one question honestly, Dresden? I checked Bluebeard to see if he was listening in. He had leaned over toward the round-faced grandma-looking wizardess at another table and appeared to be listening intently to her. I nodded to the gatekeeper. He waved his hand. No words, no pause to prepare, nothing. He waved his hands, and the sound of the room suddenly seemed to blur together, robbed of any coherence at all. I understand you know how to listen to. I would rather no one else heard us. The sound of his voice came to me, warped, parts pitched high and others low, oddly reverberating. I gave him a wary nod. What's the question? He reached up to his cowl, black leather against twilight purple, and drew back the hood a little, enough that I could see the gleam of one dark eye and a rough, thin gray beard against bronze skin. I couldn't see his other eye. His face seemed to ripple and contort in the shadows, and I had an idea that he was disfigured, maybe burned. In the socket of his missing eye, I saw something silver and reflective. He leaned down closer and whispered near my ear. Has Mob chosen an emissary? I struggled not to let the surprise show on my face, but I'm not always good at hiding my feelings. I saw comprehension flicker in the gatekeeper's shadowed eye. Damn it, now I understood why Mob had been so confident. She had known all along she had set me up for a deal I couldn't refuse. She had done it without breaking our bargain either. Mob wanted me to take up her case, and she seemed perfectly happy to meddle in a supernatural war to get what she wanted. She had just been toying with me in my office, and I'd fallen for it. I wanted to kick myself. Somewhere out there was a village I'd deprived of its idiot. In any case, there was no sense of lying to the guy whose vote would decide my fate, and I nodded to him. Yes. He shook his head. Precarious balance. The council can afford neither to keep you nor cast you out. I don't understand. You will. He drew the cowl back down and murmured, I cannot prevent your fate, wizard. I can only give you a chance to avoid it on your own. What do you mean? Cannot you see what is happening? I frowned at him. A dangerous imbalance of forces, the White Council in town, Mom meddling in our affairs. Or perhaps we're meddling in hers. Why has she appointed a mortal emissary, young wizard? Because someone up there takes a malevolent amusement in my suffering? Balance. The gatekeeper corrected me. It is all about balance. Redress the imbalance, young wizard. Resolve the situation. Prove your worth beyond doubt. Are you telling me I should work for Mob? My voice sounded hollow, tinny, as though it were trapped in a coffee can. What is the date? The gatekeeper asked. June 18th, I said. Ah, of course. The gatekeeper turned away and sounds returned to normal. The gatekeeper joined the rest of the senior council and they trooped back up to their podiums. Whatever, goddamn correspondence course. Order, Merlin called to Merlin again. The room grew quiet after a reluctant moment. Gatekeeper, the Merlin said, what is your vote? The silent figure of the gatekeeper silently lifted one hand. We have set our feet upon a darkling path, he murmured. A road that will only grow more dangerous. Our first steps are critical. We must make them with caution. The cow turned toward Ebenezer and the gatekeeper said, You love the boy, Wizard McCoy. You would fight to defend him. Your own dedication to our cause is not inconsiderable. I respect your choice. He turned toward Lafortier. You question Dresden's loyalty and his ability. You imply that only a bad seed can grow from bad soil. Your concerns are understandable. And if correct, then Dresden poses a major threat to the council. He turned to Ancient Mai and inclined the cow forward a few degrees. The ancient responded with a slight bow of her own. Ancient Mai, the gatekeeper said. You question his ability to use his power wisely, to judge between right and wrong. You fear that Dumorn's teachings may have twisted him in ways even he yet cannot see. Your fears, too, are justified. He turned to the Merlin. Honored Merlin, you know that Dresden has drawn death and danger down upon the council. You believe that if he is removed, so will be that danger. Your fears are understandable, but not reasonable. Regardless of what happens to Dresden, the Red Court has struck a blow against the council too deep to be ignored. A cessation of current hostilities would only be the calm before the storm. Enough, man, Ebenezer demanded. We vote for or against. I choose to base my vote upon a trial, a test that will lay to rest the fears of one side of the issue or prove falsely placed on the faith of the other. What trial? The Merlin asked. Mob, the gatekeeper said. Let Dresden address Queen Mob's request. Let him secure the assistance of Winter. If he does, that should lay to rest your concerns regarding his ability, Lafortier. Lafortier frowned, but then nodded to the gatekeeper. He turned to Ancient Mai. Should he accomplish this, it should show he is willing to accept responsibility for his mistake and to work against his own best interest for the greater good of the council. It should satisfy your concerns as to his judgment. To make the mistakes of the youth is no crime, but not to learn from them is. Agreed? Ancient Mai narrowed her rheumy eyes, but gave the gatekeeper a precise nod. And you, Honored Merlin, such a success may do much to alleviate the pressure of the coming war. If securing routes through the Never Never places the Red Court at severe enough a disadvantage, it may even enable us to avoid it entirely. Surely it would prove Dresden's dedication to the council beyond a doubt. That's all well and good, Ebenezer said, but what happens if he fails? The gatekeeper shrugged. Then perhaps their fears are more justified than your affection, Wizard McCoy. We may indeed conclude that his appointment to full wizard initiate may have been premature. All or nothing? Ebenezer demanded. Is that it? You expect the youngest wizard in the council to get the best of Queen Mob somehow? Mob. That's not a trial, it's a goddamn execution. How's he even supposed to know what her request was to begin with? I stood up, my legs shaking a little. Ebenezer, I said. How the hell is this boy supposed to know what she wants? Ebenezer. I'm not going to stand by while you... He abruptly blinked and looked at me. So did everyone else. I know what Mob wants, I said. She approached me earlier today, sir. She asked me to investigate something for her. I turned her down. Hell's bells, Ebenezer breathed. He then took a blue bandana from his pocket and mopped his gleaming forehead. House, this is out of your depth. It looks like it's sink or swim then, I said. The gatekeeper murmured to me in English, Will you accept this, Wizard Dresden? I nodded my head. My throat had gone dry. I swallowed and tried to remind myself that there wasn't much choice. If I didn't play with the fairies and come out on top, the council would serve me up to the vampires on a silver platter. The former might get me really, really killed. The latter would certainly kill me as well, and probably more than that. As deals went, it blew, but some little part of me that hadn't let me forget all the destruction, maybe even the deaths I'd caused last year, danced gleefully at my apparent comeuppance. Besides, it was the only game in town. I tightened my grip on my staff and spoke as clearly as I could manage. Yes, I accept. Now, I'm not sure if I should start another chapter or not because it keeps insisting that I go to an ad break. So, and I always keep the last skip, as it were, but I'll try. Chapter 7. The rest of the council meeting was somewhat anticlimactic, for me anyway. The Merlin ordered the wizards to disperse immediately after the meeting via pre-planned secure routes. He also distributed a list to everyone noting wardens near them to call upon if help was needed and told them to check in with wardens every few days as a safety precaution. Next, the grizzled old dame warden went over the theories to a couple of newly developed wards meant to work especially well against vampires. Representatives of the White Council's allies, secret occult brotherhoods mostly, each gave a brief speech declaring his or her group supported the council in the war. Toward the end of the meeting, wardens showed up in force to escort wizards to the beginnings of their routes home. The senior council, I presume, would loiter around for a few days in order to see if I got killed trying to prove it was me, I was one of the good guys. Sometimes I feel like no one appreciates me. I stood up about 3 seconds before the Merlin said, "Meeting adjourned," and headed for the door. Ebenezer tried to catch my eye, but I didn't feel like talking to anyone. I slammed the doors open a little harder than I needed to, stalked out to the Blue Beetle, and drove away with all the raging power the ancient four-cylinder engine could muster. Behold the angry wizard putting away. My brain felt like something made out of stale cereal, coffee grounds, and cold pizza. You know, that's actually a great quote. I like that. That's kind of how I've felt the past few weeks. Thoughts trudged around in aimless depression, mostly about how I was going to get myself killed, playing private eye for mob. If things really got bad, I might even drag down a few innocent bystanders with me. I growled at myself. "Stop whining, Harry," I said in a firm, loud voice. "So what if you're tired? So what if you're hurt? So what if you smell like you're already dead? You're a wizard. You've got a job to do. This war is mostly your own fault, and if you don't stay on the ball, more people are going to get hurt. So stiff upper lip, chin up, whatever. Get your ass in gear." I nodded at that advice and glanced aside to the envelope Mob had given me, which lay on the passenger seat. I had a name, an address, and a crime. I needed to get on the trail of the killer. That meant I would need information. The people who would have the most information a couple of days after the fact would be the Chicago PD. I drove to Murphy's place. Lieutenant Karen Murphy was the head of Chicago PD's Special Investigations Team. SI was the city's answer to weirdness in general. They got all the unusual crimes, the ones that didn't fall neatly into the department's other categories. SI has handled everything from sightings of sewer alligators to grave robbing in one of the city's main cemeteries. What fun. They also got to take care of the genuine supernatural stuff, the things that no one talks about in official reports but manage to happen anyway. Trolls, vampires, demons, summoned sorcerers, you name it. The city had appointed SI to make sure the paperwork stayed nice and neat with no mention of the preposterous fantasies that could not possibly exist. It was a thankless job, and the directors of SI typically blew it after about a month of refusing to believe that they were dealing with genuine weirdness. Then they got shuffled out of Chicago PD. Murphy hadn't. She had lasted. She had taken things seriously and employed the services of Chicago's only professional wizard, guess who, as a consultant on the tougher jobs. Murphy and I have seen some very upsetting things together. We're friends. She would help. Murphy lives in a house in Bucktown near a lot of other cops. It's a tiny place, but she owns it. Grandma Murphy left it to her. The house is surrounded by a neat little lawn. I pulled up in the Beatles sometime well after summertime dark, but before midnight. I knew she'd be home, though I wasn't certain she'd be awake. I made sure that I didn't sound like I was trying to sneak up anywhere. I shut the door of the Beetle hard and walked with firm footsteps to her door and knocked lightly. A moment later, the curtains on the barred windows beside the door twitched and fell back into place. A lock disengaged, and then another, and then a door chain. I noted as I waited that Murphy had a steel-reinforced door just like I did, although I doubted she'd had as many demons or assassins showing up to it. Murphy opened the door partway and peered out at me. The woman didn't look like the chief of Chicago PD's monster hunters. Her bright blue eyes were heavy, weary, and underscored with dark bags. She stood 5 feet and nothing in her bare feet. Her golden hair was longer on top than in back, with bangs hanging down to her eyes. She wore a pale peach terry cloth bathrobe that fell most of the way to her feet. In her right hand she held her automatic and a small crucifix dangling on a chain wrapped around her wrist. She looked at me. "Hey, Murph," I said. I looked at the gun and the holy symbol and kept my voice calm. Sorry to drop in on you this late. I need your help." Murphy regarded me in silence for more than a minute, then said, "Wait here." She shut the door, returned a minute later, and opened it again all the way. Then, gun still in hand, she stepped back from the door and faced me. I said, "Murph, are you all right?" She nodded. "Okay." I said, "Can I come in?" "Hey, Wolf, how you doing?" "Hey, Wolfish. Hope you're doing all right today." Let me give you a quick shout out. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll give you a little bit of a shout out there. And live on YouTube as well. For those of you that might not know. I'm going to put that in there. Got hair in my mouth all of a sudden. I hope you get to feeling better. It's actually a good time to focus on wellness because you can sit back and listen to the story. And just kind of try to be relaxed and cozy. "We'll know in a minute," Murphy said. I got it then. Murphy wasn't going to ask me in. There are plenty of monsters running around in the dark that can't violate the threshold of a home if they aren't invited in. One of them had caught up to Murphy last year, nearly killing her, and had been wearing my face when it did it. No wonder she didn't look exactly like she was overjoyed to see me. "Murph," I said, "relax. It's me, Hell's Bells." I got schmutz on my hand. What the heck? Where'd that come from? Sorry, I got sidetracked. It's like I saw my hand. Like there's like ink on it. I don't know where it came from. I hope one of my pens aren't messing up. Anyway, sorry. "Hell's bells, there isn't anything that I can think of that would mimic me looking like this. Even demonic fiends from the nether regions of hell have some taste." I stepped across her threshold. Something tugged at me as I did, an intangible, invisible energy. It slowed me down a little, and I had to make an effort to push through it. That's what a threshold is like. One like it surrounds every home, a field of energy that keeps out unwanted magical forces. Some places have more of a threshold than others. My apartment, for example, didn't have much of a threshold. It's a bachelor pad, and whatever domestic energy is responsible for such things doesn't seem to settle down as well in rental spaces and lone dwellings. Murphy's house had a heavy field surrounding it. It had a life of its own. It had history. It was a home, not just a place to live. Yep, and we got an ad break. Give me a sec. I knew it'd drop on me. Dang it. And for those of you on YouTube, hang tight for about 3 minutes. We do have a little bit of an ad break that just decided to surprise me. Yay! And stuff. I'm going to check on the other strums and other things while I'm doing this. Just checking on various things and natures. I always like to check my messages when we have ad breaks because that way I can make sure everything's up to date and good for everybody else. Hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. I also take time to make this a stretch break as well. I've got a day tomorrow of application filing and tax finishing and appointment making ahead of me tomorrow. Yay! So, woo! Adulting. Ain't it great? Woo! Happy, happy, joy, joy. I thought about doing Dreamlight Valley today, but I think what I may do is I don't know, I'm kind of torn between that and playing a simulation game today after after story time. We got about another 45 seconds. For those of you on YouTube, please continue to hang out. We'll be back with the story in just a moment. Sorry for the interruption, but sadly it is a necessary evil. on the twitchy eyes, as my best friend would put it. Um, Hopefully you're enjoying the story. Hopefully it's a nice cozy break from the day. I try to push positivity as much as I possibly can. Da, 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 da. But and it's like during this ad break, everybody tap dances, you know. And welcome back from the ad break. Let us continue with the story. For that, like I said, for that I apologize. Uh, okay, here we go again. I crossed your threshold uninvited, giggity, and I left a lot of my power at the door as I did. I would really have to push to make even the simplest spells work within. I stepped inside and spread my hands. Do I pass inspection? Murphy didn't say anything. She crossed the room, put her gun back into its holster, setting it down on the end table. Murphy's place was, dare I say it, cute. The room was done in soft yellows and greens, and there were ruffles. The curtains had ruffles, and the couch had more, plus those little knitted things. Aren't they called doilies? Were draped over the arms of the two recliners, the couch, the coffee table, and just about every other surface that seemed capable of supporting lacy bits of frou-frou. Frou-frou. They looked old and beautiful and well cared for. I was betting Murphy's grandma had picked them out. Murphy's own decorating was limited to the gun cleaning kit sitting on the end table beside the holster for automatic and wooden rack over the fireplace that bore a pair of Japanese swords, long and short, one over the other. That was the Murphy I knew and loved, practical violence ready at hand. Next to the swords was a small row of photographs in holders, maybe her family. A thick picture with what looked like real leather cover sat open on the coffee table next to a prescription bottle and a decanter of some kind of liquor. Gin? The decanter was half empty. The glass next to it was completely empty. I watched her settle down in the corner of the couch in her oversized bathrobe, her expression remote. She didn't look at me. She got more worried by the moment. Murphy wasn't acting like Murphy. She had never passed up a chance to trade banter with me. I had never seen her this silent and withdrawn. Damn it, just when I needed some quick and decisive help, something was wrong with Murphy, and I hardly had time to play dime store psychologist trying to help her. I needed whatever information she could get me. I also needed to help her with whatever it was that hurt her so badly. I was fairly sure I wouldn't be able to do either if I didn't get her talking. Nice place, Murph, I told her. I hadn't seen it before. She twitched one shoulder in what might have been a shrug. I frowned. You know, if conversation is too much for you, we could play charades. I'll go first. I held up my hand with my fingers spread. Murphy didn't say anything, so I provided her end of the dialogue. 5 words, I told him. It sounds like, what is wrong with you? She shook her head. I saw her eyes flicker toward the album. I leaned forward and turned the album toward me. It had been open to a cluster of wedding pictures. The girl in them must have been Murphy's back when. She had longer, sunnier hair and a kind of adolescent slenderness that showed around her neck and wrists. She wore a white wedding gown and stood next to a tuxedo-clad man who had to have been 10 years older than she was. Another picture, she was shoving cake into his mouth, drinking through linked arms, the usual wedding fare. He had carried her to the getaway car, and the photo of Murphy's face had been caught in a moment of laughter and joy. First husband, I asked. That got to her. She glanced up at me for just a second and then nodded. You were a kid in this, maybe 18? She shook her head. 17? She nodded. At least I was getting some kind of response out of her. How long were you married to him? Silence. I frowned. Murph, I'm not like a genius about this stuff or anything, but if you're feeling guilty about something, maybe you're being a little hard on yourself. Without a word, she leaned forward and picked up the album, moving it aside to reveal a copy of the Tribune. It had been folded open to the obituaries page. She picked it up and handed it to me. I read the first one out loud. Gregory Taggart, age 43, died last night after a long bout with cancer. I paused and looked at the photograph of the deceased in Murphy's album. It was the same man, give or take several years of wear and tear. I winced and lowered the paper. Oh, God, Murph, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. She blinked her eyes several times. Her voice came out thready and quiet. He didn't even tell me he was sick. Talk about your nasty surprises, Murph. Look, I'm sure that things will work out. I know how you're hurting, how you must feel, but do you? She said, still very quiet. Do you know how I feel? Did you lose your first love? I sat quietly for a full minute before I said, yeah, I did. What was her name? It hurt to think the name, much less say it. But if it helped me get through to Murphy, I couldn't afford to be touchy. Elaine. We were. Both of us were orphans. We got adopted by the same man when we were 10. Murphy blinked and looked up at me. She was your sister? I don't have any relatives. We were both adopted by the same guy, that's all. We lived together, drove one another nuts, hit puberty together, do the math. She nodded. How long were you together? Oh, until we were about 16. What happened? How did she... I shrugged. My adoptive father tried to get me into black magic. Human sacrifice. Murphy frowned. He was a wizard? I nodded. Strong one. So was she. Didn't he try to get Elaine too? Did get her, I said. She was helping him. What happened? She asked quietly. I tried to keep my voice even and calm, but I wasn't sure how well I managed it. I ran away. He sent a demon after me. I beat it and then went back to save Elaine. She hit me with a binding spell when I wasn't looking. He tried a spell that would break into my head, make me do what he wanted. I slipped out of the spell Elaine had on me and took on Justin. I got lucky. He lost. Everything burned. Murphy swallowed. What happened to Elaine? Burned, I said quietly, my throat tightening. She's dead. God, Harry, Murphy was quiet for a moment. Greg left me. We tried to talk a few times, but always ended in a fight. Her eyes welled up with tears. Damn it, I should have at least gotten to tell him goodbye. I put the paper back on the table and closed the album. Studiously not looking at Murphy. I knew she wouldn't want me to see her crying. She inhaled sharply. I'm sorry, Harry, she said. I'm flaking out on you here. I shouldn't. I don't know why this is getting to me so hard. I glanced at the booze and the pills on the table. It's okay. Everyone has an off day sometimes. I can't afford it. She drew the bathrobe a little closer around herself and said, sorry, Harry, about the gun. Her words sounded heavy, maybe a little slurred. I had to be sure it was really you. I understand, I said. She looked at me and something like gratitude touched her eyes. She got up from the couch abruptly and walked down the hallway out of the living room and said over her shoulder, let me put something else on. Sure, okay, I said after her frowning. I leaned over to the table and picked up the prescription ball behind the booze next to the empty tumbler. A medium-sized dose of Valium. No wonder Murphy had been slurring her words. Valium and gin. Hell's bells. I was still holding the pills when she came back in, wearing baggy shorts and a t-shirt. She raked a brush through her hair and splashed water on her face, so I could barely tell she'd been crying. She stopped short and looked at me. I didn't say anything. She chewed on her lip. Murphy, I said finally, are you okay? Do you need... Relax, Dresden, she said vulnerably. I'm not suicidal. Funny you should say that. Mixing drinks with drugs is a great way to get it done. She walked over to me, jerked the bill ball out of my hand, and picked up the bottle of booze. It isn't any of your business, she said. She walked in the kitchen, dropped things off, and came back out again. I'm fine. I'll be fine. Murph, I've never seen you with a drink in your life, and Valium, it makes me worry about you. Dresden, if you came over here to lecture me, you can leave right now. I shoved my fingers through my shaggy hair. Karen, I swear I'm not lecturing. I'm just trying to understand. She looked away from me for a minute, one foot rubbing at the opposite calf. It hit me how small she looked, how frail. Her eyes were not only weary, I saw now they were haunted. I walked over to her and put a hand on her shoulder. Her skin was warm underneath the cotton of her t-shirt. Talk to me, Murph, please. She pulled her shoulder out from under my hand. It isn't a big deal. It's the only way I can get any sleep. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. I can't sleep without help. The drinks didn't help. The drugs didn't either. I have to use both or I won't get any rest. I still don't get it. Why can't you sleep? Is it because of Greg? Murphy shook her head and then moved over to the couch away from me and curled up in the corner of it, clasping her hands over her knees. I've been having nightmares. Night terrors, the doctors say. They say it's different from just bad dreams. I felt my cheek twitch with tension. And you can't stay asleep? She shook her head. I waked myself up screaming. I saw her clench her fist. God damn it, Dresden. There's no reason for it. I shouldn't get rattled by a few bad dreams. I shouldn't fall to pieces about hearing about a man I haven't spoken to in years. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. I closed my eyes. You're dreaming about last year, aren't you? About what Kravos did to you. She shivered at the mention of the name and nodded. I couldn't stop thinking about it for a long time, trying to figure out what I did wrong, why he was able to get to me. I ached inside. Murph, there wasn't anything you could have done. Don't you think I know that? She said, her voice quiet. I couldn't have known that it wasn't you. I couldn't have stopped him even if I had. I couldn't have done anything to defend myself, to stop what he did to me once he was inside my head. Her eyes clouded with tears, but she blinked them away, her jaw setting. There wasn't anything I could have done. That's what scares me, Harry. That's why I'm afraid. Murphy, he's dead. He's dead and gone. We watched them put him in the ground. Murphy snorted. I know that. I know it. Harry, I know he's gone. I know he can't hurt me anymore. I know he's never going to hurt anyone again. She looked up at me for a moment, chancing a look at my eyes. Hers was clouded with tears. But I still have the dreams. I know it. But it doesn't make any difference. God, poor Murphy. She had taken a spiritual mauling. The fire had shown up to save her. That thing that attacked her had been a spirit being and had torn her apart on the inside without leaving a mark on her skin. In a way, she had been graped. All of her power had been taken away, and she had been used for the amusement of another. No wonder it had left her with scars. Adding an unpleasant shock of bad news had been like tossing a spark onto a pile of tinder soaked in jet fuel. Harry, she continued, her voice quiet and soft. You know me. God, I'm not a whiner. I hate that. But what that thing did to me, the things it made me see, made me feel. She looked at me, pain in the lines at the corners of her eyes, which threatened tears. It won't go away. I try to leave it behind me, but it won't go, and it's eating up every part of my life. She turned away, grabbing irritably at a box of tissues. I walked over to the fireplace and studied the swords on the mantel, so she wouldn't feel my eyes on her. After a moment she spoke, her tone changing, growing more focused. What are you doing here so late? I turned back to face her. I need a favor. Information. I passed over the envelope Mob had given me. Murphy opened it, looked at the pair of pictures, and frowned. These are shots from the report of Ronald Rule's death. How did you get them? I didn't. I said a client gave them to me. I don't know where she got them. She rubbed her eyes and asked, what does she want from you? She wants me to find the person who killed him. Murphy shook her head. I thought this was an accidental death. I hear it isn't. Where'd you hear that? A magical fairy told me. That got me a suspicious glare, which dissolved into a frown. God, you're being literal, aren't you? Yeah. Murphy shook her head and a tired smile at the corners of her mouth. How can I help? I'd like to look at the file on Ronald Rule's death. I can't look at the scene, but maybe CPD caught something they didn't know was a clue. It would give me a place to start at least. Murphy nodded without looking at me. All right, one condition. Sure, what? If this is murder, you bring me in on it. Murph, I protested. Come on, I don't want to pull you into something. Damn it, Harry! Murphy snapped. If someone's killing people in Chicago, I'm going to deal with them. It's my job. What's been happening to me doesn't change that. It's your job to stop the bad guys, I said, but this might not be a guy. It might not even be human. I just think you'd be safer if... Fuck safe! Murphy muttered. My job, Harry. If you turn up a killing, you will bring it to me. I hesitated, trying not to let my frustration show. I didn't want Murphy involved with Mob and company. Murphy had earned too many scars already. The fairies had a way of insinuating themselves into your life. I didn't want Murphy exposed to that, especially as vulnerable as she was. But at the same time, I couldn't lie to her. I owed her a lot more than that. Bottom line, Murphy had been hurt. She was afraid, and if she didn't force herself to face that fear, it might swallow her whole. She knew it. As terrified as she was, she knew that she had to keep going or she would never recover. As much as I wanted to keep her safe, especially now, it wouldn't help her, not in the long run. In a sense, her life was at stake. Deal, I said quietly. She nodded and rose. Stay out here. I need to get on the computer, see what I can pull up for you. I can wait if it's better. She shook her head. I've already taken the Valium. If I wait any longer, I'll be too zonked to think straight. Just sit down. Have a drink. Try not to blow up anything. She patted another room on silent feet. I sat down in one of the armchairs, stretched out my legs, let my head fall forward, and dropped into a light doze. It'd been a long day, and it looked like it was going to get longer. I woke up when Murphy came back into the room, her eyes heavy. She had a manila folder with her. Okay, she said, this is everything I could print out. The pictures aren't as clear as they could be, but they aren't horrible. I sat up, took the folder from her, and opened it. Murphy sat down in an armchair facing me, her legs tucked beneath her. I started going over the details of the folder through my brain, though my brain felt like some kind of gelatin dessert topped with mush. What happened to your hand? She asked. Magic fairy, I said. Magic fairy with a letter opener. It doesn't look good. The dressing isn't right either. You have anyone look at it? I shook my head. No time. Harry, you idiot. She got up, disappeared into the kitchen, and came back with a first aid kit. I decided not to argue with her. She pulled up a chair from the kitchen next to mine and rested my arm in her lap. I'm trying to read here, Murph. You're still bleeding. Puncture wounds will ooze forever if you don't keep them covered. Yeah, I tried to explain that, but they made me take the bandage off anyway. Who did? Long story. So the security guard on the building didn't see anyone come in? She peeled off the bandage with brisk motions. It hurt. She fished out some disinfectant. Cameras didn't pick up anything either, and there aren't any bursts of static to indicate someone using magic. I checked. Not bad, Murph. Yeah, sometimes I use my head instead of my gun. This will hurt. She sprayed disinfectant liberally on my hand. It stung. Ow! Wimp. Any other ways in and out of the building? Now, unless they could fly or walk through walls, the other doors are all fire exits with alarms that would trip if someone opened them. I kept paging through the file. Broken neck due to fall, it says. They found him at the bottom of the stairs. Right. Murphy used a wipe to clean both sides of my hand, then she put more disinfectant on it. It hurt a bit less. He had contusions consistent with a fall, but he was an old man. No one had seen entering or leaving an apartment building with a high security system so naturally. No one looked for a killer, I finished, or reported anything that might have indicated one. Or wait, did they? Says here, the first officer on the scene found slippery goo on the landing above where Ruel fell. But none of the detectives on the scene later found any such thing, Murphy said. She pressed a gauze pad against the wound from either side and began wrapping medical tape around it to hold the pads on. The first officer was a rookie. They figured he was seeing a killing where there wasn't one, so he could get in on a murder investigation. I frowned, turning the printouts of the photographs around. See, here, the sleeves of Ruel's coat are wet. You can see the discoloration. She looked at him. Maybe. There's no mention of it, though. Slippery goo. That could have been ectoplasm. Is that too tight? Ecto what? I flexed my fingers a little, testing the bandage. It's fine. Ectoplasm, matter from the Never Never. That's the spirit world, right? Fairyland? Among other things. And stuff from there is goo? It turns to goo when there's not any magic animating it. As long as the magic is there, it's as good as real, like when Kravos made a body that looked like mine and came gunning for you. Murphy shivered and started putting things back into her kit. So when whatever it is that has made this ecto goo into matter is gone, it turns back into slime, I said. It's clear and slippery and evaporates in a few minutes. So something from the Never Never could have killed Ruel, Murphy said. Yeah, I said. Or someone could have opened up a portal into the apartment building. There's usually some gunk left whenever you open a portal, dust drifting out from the Never Never, so they could have opened a portal and then gotten out the same way. Whoa, hold it. I thought Fairyland was monsters only. People can go into the Never Never? If you know the right magic. Yeah, it's full of things that are fairly dangerous, though. You don't just cruise through on a Sunday stroll. Jesus Christ, Murphy muttered, or someone, or something, I interjected, or something could have gotten into the building and out again just like that, past all the locks and guards and cameras. How scary is that? Could have, yeah. Stepped in, pitched Grandpa down the stairs, stepped out again. God, that poor old man. I don't think he was helpless, Murphy. Well, was mixed up with the fairies. I kind of doubt his hands were squeaky clean. Okay, so she nodded. Had he made any supernatural enemies? I held up a picture of the body. Looks like it. Murphy shook her head. She swayed a little bit and then sat down next to me, leaning her head against the corner of the couch. So what's the next step? I go digging, pound the proverbial pavement. You don't look so good. Get some rest first. A shower, some food, maybe a haircut. I rubbed my eyes with my good hand. Yeah, I said. And you tell me when you know something. Murph, if this was something from the Never Never, it's going to be out of your, I almost said leak, jurisdiction. She shrugged. If it came into my town and hurt someone I'm responsible for protecting, I want to make an answer for that. She closed her eyes. Same as you. Besides, you promised. Well, she had me there. Okay, Murph. When I find something out, I'll call. All right, she said. She curled up in the corner of the couch again, heavy eyes closing. She leaned her head back, burying the lines of her throat. After a moment, she asked, "Have you heard from Susan?" I shook my head. "No, but her articles are still coming into the arcane. She's all right." I nodded. "I guess so. Have you found anything that will help her yet?" I sighed and shook my head. "No, not yet." It's like pounding my head against a wall. She halfway smiled. "With your head, the wall breaks first. You're the most stubborn man I've ever met." "You say the sweetest things." Murphy nodded. "You're a good man, Harry. If anyone can help her, it's you." I looked down so she wouldn't see the tears that made my eyes swim a little, and started putting the file back together. "Thanks, Murph. That means a lot to me." She didn't answer. I looked up and saw that her mouth had fallen slightly open and her body was totally relaxed, a cheek resting on the arm of the couch. "Murph?" I asked. She didn't stir. I got up and left the file on the chair. I found a blanket and draped it lightly over, tucking it around her. She made a soft sound in the back of her throat and nuzzled her cheek closer to the couch. "Sleep well, Murph," I said, and then I headed for the door. I locked what I could behind me, made my way back to the Beetle, and drove toward home. I ached everywhere, not from sore muscles, but from simple exhaustion. My wounded hand felt like a big throbbing knot of cramping muscle doused in gasoline and set on fire. I hurt even more on the inside. Poor Murph had been torn up badly. She was terrified of the things she might have to face, but it made her no less determined to face them. That was courage, and more than I had. I at least wasn't sure I could hit back if one of the monsters came after me. Murphy didn't have any such certainty. Murphy was my friend. She had saved my life before. We'd fought side by side. She needed my help again. She had to face her fear. I understood that. She needed me to help make that happen, but I didn't have to like it. In her condition, she'd be extra vulnerable to any kind of attack like the one by Kravos the year before. And if she got hit again before she had a chance to piece herself back together, it might not simply wound her, it might break her entirely. I wasn't sure I could live myself if that happened. "Damn it," I muttered. "So help me, Murph. I'm going to make sure you come out of this okay." I shoved my worries about Murphy in the back of my mind. The best way to protect her would be to focus on this case, to get cracking. But my brain felt like something had crawled into it and died. The only cracking it was going to be doing was the kind that would land me in a rubber room in a sleeveless coat. I wanted food, sleep, a shower. If I didn't take some time to put myself back together, I might walk right into something that would kill me and not notice until it was too late. I drove back to my apartment, which is the basement of a rooming house more than a century old. I parked the Beetle outside and got my rod and staff out of the car to take with me. It wasn't much of a walk between my apartment and the car, but I'd been accosted before. Vampires can really be inconsiderate that way. I thumped down the stairs to my apartment, unlocked the door, and murmured the phrase that would disarm my wards long enough for me to let me get inside. I slipped in, and my instincts screamed at me that I was not alone. I lifted the blasting rod, gathering my power and sending it humming through the focus so the tip burst into a brilliant crimson light that flooded my apartment. And then there she was, a slender woman standing by my cold fireplace, all graceful curves and poised reserve. She wore a pair of blue jeans over long coltish legs with a simple scarlet cotton t-shirt. A silver pentacle hung outside the shirt, resting on the curve of modest breasts, and it gleamed in the light from my red blasting rod. Her skin was pale like the inner bark of an oak, the living part of the tree. Her hair the brown gold of ripe wheat, her eyes the gray of storm clouds. Her fine mouth twitched first into a smile, then into a frown. Then she lifted elegant long finger hands to show me empty palms. "I let myself in," she murmured. "I hope you don't mind. You should change your wards more often." I lowered the blasting rod, too stunned to speak, my heart lurching in my chest. She lowered her hands and closed the distance between us. She lifted herself onto her toes, but she was tall enough that it wasn't much of an effort for her to try to kiss my cheek. She smelled like wildflowers in sun-drenched summer afternoon. She drew back enough to focus on my face and my eyes, and her expression gentle and concerned. "Hello, Harry." And I said in a bare whisper, fighting through the shock, "Hello, Elaine." I always take time between chapters to take a sip of drink. Chapter 8. Elaine walked past me, making a circuit around my apartment. It wasn't much of a tour. The place consists of a living room and tiny bedroom. The kitchen's pretty much an alcove with a sink and a fridge. The floor is smooth gray stone, but I'd covered it with a lot of it with a few dozen rugs. My furniture is all second-hand and comfortable. It doesn't even come close to matching. Bookshelves filled up most of the wall space, and where they don't, I have several tapestries, plus a Star Wars movie poster Billy gave me for Christmas. It's the old poster, with the one with Princess Leia clinging to Luke's leg. For those of you that don't know that one, you should look it up. Why do everybody got this? That's the reason why everybody was shocked in Jedi. Just saying. Anyway, that was my apartment on a normal day. Lately, it suffered from disrepair. It didn't smell so great, and pizza boxes and empty Coke cans had overflowed the trash can and spilled over the significant portion of the kitchen floor. You could barely walk without stepping on clothing that needed to be washed. My furniture was covered with scribbled on papers and discarded pens and pencils. Elaine walked through it all like a Red Cross worker through a war zone and shook her head. I knew you weren't expecting me, Harry, but I didn't think I'd be overdressed. You live in this? Elaine, I choked out, you're alive. A little less of a compliment than I would have hoped for, but I guess it could have been worse. She regarded me from near the kitchen. I'm alive, Harry. Her face flickered with a trace of apprehension. How are you feeling? I lowered myself onto the couch, papers crunching beneath me. I released the power I had held ready to strike, and the glowing tip of the blasting rod went out, leaving the apartment in darkness. I kept staring at her afterimage on my vision. Shocked, I said. Finally, this isn't happening. Hell's bells, this has got to be some sort of trick. No, it's me. If I was something out of the Never Never, could I have crossed your threshold uninvited? Do you know anyone else who knows how you set up your wards? Anyone could figure it out eventually, I said. All right. Does anyone else know that you failed your driver's test 5 times in 1 week? Or that you sprained your shoulder trying to impress me going out for football our freshman year? That we soul gazed on our first night together? I think I can still remember our locker room combinations if you like. My God, Elaine. I shook my head. Elaine, alive. My brain couldn't wrap itself around the idea. Why didn't you contact me? I saw her dimly lean against the wall. She was quiet for a while, though she had to shape her words carefully. At first, because I didn't even know if you'd survived, and after that, she shook her head. I wasn't sure I wanted to. Wasn't sure you'd want me to. So much has happened. My shock and disbelief faded before a sudden aching pain and an old anger. That's putting it mildly, I said. You tried to destroy me. No, she said. God, no, Harry. You don't understand. I never wanted that. My voice gained a hard edge. Which is why you hit me with that binding. Why you held me down while Justin tried to destroy me. He never wanted you dead. No, he just wanted to break into my head. Wanted to control me, make me some kind of... Words failed me on the face of my frustration. Thrall, Elaine said quietly. He'd have wrapped you in enough spells to guarantee your loyalty to make you his thrall. And that's worse than dead. And you helped him. Her voice crackled with anger of its own. Yes, Harry, I helped him. That's what thralls do. My rising ire abruptly quieted. What are you saying? I saw her dim-shaped bow its head. Justin caught me about 2 weeks before he had sent that demon to capture you. The day I stayed home sick, remember, by the time you got home from school. He had me. I tried to fight him, but I was a child. I didn't have enough experience to resist him. And after he had enthralled me, I didn't see why I should fight anymore. I stared at her for a long minute. So you're telling me that you didn't have any choice, I breathed. He forced you to do it. He made you help him. Yes. Why the hell should I believe you? I don't expect you to. I rose and paced back and forth relentlessly. I can't believe you're trying to tell me that the devil made you do it. Do you have any idea how lame that excuse sounds? Elaine watched me carefully, her gray eyes pensive and sad. It wasn't an excuse, Harry. Nothing can excuse the kind of pain I put you through. I stopped and frowned at her. Then why are you telling me? Because it needs to be said, she murmured. Because that's what happened. You deserve to know. I was quiet for a long time. Then I asked, he really had enthralled you? Elaine shivered and nodded. What was it like? She fretted her lower lip. I didn't know it was happening. Not at the time. I didn't have the ability to think clearly. Justin told me that you just needed to be shown what to do, and that if I would hold you still long enough to let him explain things to you, it would all work out. I believed him, trusted him. She shook her head. I never wanted to hurt you, Harry. Never. I'm sorry. I sat down and rubbed my face with my hands, my emotions running high and out of control again. Without the anger to support me, all I had left inside was pain. I thought I'd gotten over Elaine's loss, her betrayal. I thought I'd forgotten it and moved on. I was wrong. The wounds burst open again, as painful as they had ever been. Maybe more so. I had to fight to control my breathing, my tone. I had loved her. I wanted very badly to believe her. I looked for you, I said quietly, in fire and water. I had spirits combing the earth for any trace of you, hoping that you had survived. She pushed away from the wall and walked to the fireplace. I heard her putting putting in wood, and then she murmured something soft and low. Flame licked up over the logs easily, smoothly, low and blue, and then settled into a dark golden light. I watched her profile as she stared down at the fire. I got out of the house before you and Justin were finished, she said firmly. Finally, his spells had begun to unravel, and I was struggling against them, confused, terrified. I must have run. I don't even remember doing it. But where have you been? I asked. Elaine, I looked for you for years. Years! Where you couldn't find me, Harry. You or anyone else. I found sanctuary, a place to hide, but there was a price, and that's why I'm here. She looked up at me, and though her features were calm and smooth, I could see fear in her eyes, hear it and color in her voice. I'm in trouble. My answer came out at once. For me, chivalry isn't dead. It's an involuntary reflex. It could have been any woman asking for help, and I'd have said the same thing. It might have taken me a second or two longer, but I would have. For Elaine, there was no need to think about it for even that long. I'll help. Her shoulders sagged, and she nodded, pressing her lips together and bowing her head. Thank you, Harry. I hate doing this. I hate bringing this to you after all this time, but I don't know when else to turn. No, I said, it's all right, really. What's going on? Why do you think you're in trouble? What do you mean you're paying a price? It's complicated, she said, but the short version is that I was granted asylum by the summer court of the She. My stomach dropped about 20 feet. I built up a debt to Titania, the Summer Queen, in exchange for her protection, and now it's time to pay it off. She took a deep breath. There's been a murder within the realms of the She. I rubbed at my eyes, and Titania wants you to be her emissary. She wants you to find the killer and prove that the Winter Court is to blame. She told you that you would be contacted tonight by Mob's emissary, but she didn't tell you who it was going to be. Elaine's eyes widened in shock, and she fell silent. We stared at one another for a long moment before she whispered, "Stars and stones." She pushed her hair back from her face with one hand, and in what I knew to be a nervous gesture, even if it didn't look it. Harry, if I don't succeed, if I don't fulfill my debt to her, it's going to be very bad for me. Whoo, boy, I muttered. Tell me about it. Mom's more or less got me over the same barrel. Elaine swore quietly. What are we going to do? I said. She looked at me expectantly. I scowled. I'm thinking. She rose and took a few long-legged strides across the living room and back, agitated. There must be something, some way out of this. God, sometimes their sense of humor makes me sick. Mob and Titania are laughing right now. If I'd had the energy, I'd be pacing too. I closed my eyes and tried to think. If I didn't succeed on Mob's behalf, she wouldn't grant rights of passage to the council. The council would judge that I failed my trial, and they'd wrap me up and deliver me to the vampires. I didn't know the specifics of Elaine's situation, but I doubted she had a deal that was any less fatal. My head hurt. Elaine continued pacing, exasperated. Come on, Harry, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that if this dilemma grows any more horns, I'm going to shoot it and put it up on the wall. I know this will never sink into your head, but this isn't a time for jokes. We need to come up with something. Okay, I've got it. I said, get your stuff and come with me. Elaine reached back to the shadows beside the fireplace and withdrew a slender staff of pale wood carved with swirling abstract shapes. Where are we going? I pushed myself up to talk to the council and get their help. Elaine lifted her eyebrows. Don't take this the wrong way, Harry, but are you crazy? Hear me out. She pressed her lips together but gave me a quick nod. It's simple. We're in way over our heads. We need help, and you've got to come out to the council in any case. Says who? Oh, come on. You're human, Elaine, and a wizard. That's what's really important to them. They'll side with us against the fairies, help us figure out a way out of this mess. Elaine twitched at my use of the word, flicking a look around her as if by reflex. That doesn't sound like the council I've heard of. Could be that you've heard a skewed point of view, I said. Elaine nodded. Could be. The council I've heard of nearly executed you for defending yourself against Justin. Yeah, well, but they put you on probation under threat of summary execution, and you all but had to kill yourself to get cleared. Well, I was all but killing myself anyway. I mean, I didn't do it so that the council would. She shook her head. God, Harry, you just can't see it, can you? The council doesn't care about you. They don't want to protect you. They only want to put up with you as long as you toe the line and don't become an inconvenience. I'm already inconvenient. A liability, then, Elaine said. Look, some of the council have their heads up their rear ends, sure, but there are good people, too. There are good people there, too. Elaine folded her arms and shook her head. And how many of those good people don't want a thing to do with the council? Elaine. No, Harry, I mean it. I don't want anything to do with them. I've lived this long without the council's so-called protection. I think I can muddle through a little bit longer. Elaine, when they find out about you, it needs to be from you. If you come forward, it's going to cut down any uneasiness or suspicion they might feel. Suspicion? Elaine exclaimed. Harry, I'm not a criminal. You're just asking for trouble, Elaine. And how are they going to find out about me? Were you planning on running off to tattle? Of course not, I said, but I was thinking how much trouble I was going to be in if one of the wardens heard I was associated with someone who might be a violator of the first law, and one of Justin de Morn's apprentices at that. With the cloud of disfavor I was already under, adding that kind of suspicion to it might be enough to sink me regardless of how the investigation turned out. Do I have a great life or what? I won't say anything, I said finally. It has to be your choice, Elaine, but please believe me, trust me. I have friends in the council, too. They'll help. Elaine's expression softened and became less certain. You're sure? Yeah, I said, cross my heart. She leaned on her oddly curved staff and frowned. She was opening her mouth to speak when my reinforced door rattled under the rapping of a heavy fist. Dresden, Morgan growled from the other side of the door. Open up, traitor. There's questions I need you to answer. Oh, Lord, this fucker again. That was not in the book. That was my editorial comment. Oh, shit, here we go again. That's how it always happens. But that's always how it happens with Morgan. It's like, oh shit, here we go again. Oh shit, here we go again. Okay, chapter 9. Elaine shot me a wide-eyed look and mouthed the word council. I nodded and pointed to my staff in the corner along with my sword cane. Elaine picked it up without a word and tossed it to me. Then she moved silently through the door of my darkened bedroom and vanished inside. The door rattled again. Dresden, Morgan growled. I know you're in there. Open the door. I swung it open before he could go on. Or you'll huff and you'll puff and so on. Morgan glowered at me, tall, sour, and dour as ever. He traded his robes and cloak for dark slacks, a gray silk shirt, and a sport coat. He carried a golf bag on one shoulder, and most people wouldn't have noticed the hilt of a sword nestled among the golf clubs. He leaned forward, cool eyes looking past me into my apartment. Dresden, am I interrupting anything? Well, I was going to settle down with a porn video and a bottle of baby oil, but I really don't have enough for two. That's a hell of a goddamn thing to say to somebody. Morgan's expression twisted in revulsion, and I found an absurd little burst of vindictive satisfaction. You disgust me, Dresden. Yeah, I'm bad. I'm a bad, bad, bad man. I'm glad we got that settled. Goodbye, Morgan. I started to shut my door in his face. He slammed his palm against it. Morgan was a lot stronger than me. The door stayed open. I'm not finished, Dresden. I am. It's been one hell of a day. If you've got something to say, say it. Morgan's mouth set in a hard smile. Normally, I appreciate that kind of directness, not with you. Gee, you don't appreciate me? I'll cry myself to sleep. Morgan stroked his thumb over the strap of the golf bag. I want to know how it is, Dresden, that Mob just happened to come to you about this problem. The one thing that could preserve your status with the council, and it just happened to fall to you. Clean living, I said. Plus my Mondo wheels and killer bachelor pad. Morgan looked at me with flat eyes. You think you're funny. I think I'm adorable. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like that was such a Dean Winchester response, though. Yeah, I think I'm adorable. Oh, I know I'm funny. Unappreciated, but funny. Morgan shook his head. Do you know what I think, Dresden? You think? Morgan didn't smile. Like I said, unappreciated. I think you've planned all this. I think you're in with the vampires in the Winter Court. I think this is part of a deeper scheme. I just stared at him. I tried not to laugh. I really did. Well, maybe I didn't try all that hard. The laughter must have gotten to Morgan. He balled up his fist and slammed a stiff jab into my belly that took the wind out of my sails and half dropped me to my knees. No, he said, you aren't going to laugh this off, traitor. He stepped into my apartment. The threshold didn't make him blink. The wardens I had up caught him 6 inches later, but they weren't designed to be too much of an impediment to human beings. Morgan grunted, spoke a harsh word in a guttural tongue, maybe old German, and slashed his hand in front of him. The air hissed and popped with static electricity, sparks flashing from his fingertips. He shook his fingers briefly and then walked in. He looked around the place and shook his head again. Dresden, you might not be a bad person all in all, but I think you're compromised. If you aren't working with the Red Court, then I'm certain that they're using you. Either way, the threat to the council is the same, and it's best removed by removing you. I tried to suck in a breath and finally managed to say, "What the hell are you talking about?" "Susan Rodriguez," Morgan said, "your lover, the vampire." Anger made my bright lights flash behind my eyes. "She's not a vampire," I snarled. "They turned her, Dresden. No one goes back. That's all there is to it." "They haven't. She's not." Morgan shrugged. "That's what you would say if she..." Morgan shrugged. "That's what you'd say if she had addicted you to the venom. You'd say and do just about anything for them by now." I looked up at him, teeth bared. "Get the fuck out of my house!" He walked over to the fireplace and picked up a dust-covered gift card I'd left sitting on the mantel. He read and snorted. Then picked up a picture I had of Susan. "Pretty," he said, "but that's easy to come by. Odds are she was their pawn from the first day she met you." I clenched my hands in a fist. "You shut your mouth," I said. "You just shut your mouth about her. That's not how it was." "You're a fool, Dresden, a young fool. Do you really think that a normal mortal woman would want anything to do with you in your life? You can't accept that she was just a tool, one of their whores." Oh, he done said it then. That is that moment he knew. He fucked up. I spun to the corner, letting go of my staff, and picked up my sword cane. I drew the blade free and with a steely rasp and turned toward Morgan. He saw it coming and already drawn the bright silver blade of the warden's from the golf bag. Every tired, aching, angry bone in my body wanted to lunge at him. I'm not heavy with muscle, but I'm not slow, and I've got arms and legs miles long. My lunge is quick, and I can do it from a long way back. Morgan was a seasoned soldier, but in such close quarters it'd be a question of reflexes. Advantage to the guy with a sword weighted in ounces instead of stones. In that moment I was sure that I could have killed him. He might have taken me with him, but I could have done it, and I wanted to badly, not in any sort of intellectual sense, but in the part of my brain that does all its thinking after the fact. My temper had frayed to bloody tatters, and I wanted to vent it on Morgan. But a thought snuck in past the testosterone and spoiled my rage. I stopped myself, shaking, and with my knuckles white on my sword cane, I drew myself up straight and said very quietly, "That's number 3. Morgan's brow furrowed, and he stared at me, his own weapon steadily extended toward me. "What are you talking about, Dresden?" "The third plan. The Merlin's ace in the hole. He sent you here to pick a fight with me. With my door still standing open. There's a northern warden outside listening, isn't there? A witness. So that you have a clean kill. Hand the body over to the vampires. End of the problem, right?" Morgan's eyes widened. He stammered over the first word. I don't know what you're talking about." I picked up the sheath half of the sword cane and slipped the blade back in. "Sure you don't. Get out, Morgan. Unless you'd prefer to stab an unarmed man who isn't offering you violence." Morgan stared at me for a moment more, and then he shoved the sword back into the golf bag, swung it on his shoulder, and headed for the door. He was almost out when there was a clunk from my bedroom. I shot a look at the doorway. Morgan stopped. He looked at me and then at my bedroom. Something ugly sparkled in his gaze. "Who's in the bedroom, Dresden? The vampire girl, perhaps?" "No one." I said. "Get out." "We'll see," Morgan said. He turned and walked to my bedroom door, one hand still on the sword. "You and those who consort with your like will be brought to task very soon. I'm looking forward to it." My heart started pounding again. If Morgan found Elaine, there were a million things that might happen, and none of them were good. There seemed little I could do, though. I couldn't warn her, and I couldn't think of a way to get Morgan out of my apartment any faster. Morgan peered through the doorway and looked around, then abruptly let out a hoarse cry and jumped back. At the same time, there was a harsh feline yowl, and Mister, my bobtailed gray cat, came zooming out of the bedroom. He darted between Morgan's legs and then streaked out past him out of the apartment and up the stairs into the summer evening. "Gosh, Morgan," I said, "my cat might be a dangerous subversive. Maybe you better investigate him." Morgan straightened, his face slightly red. He coughed and stalked to the door. "The senior council members wish me to tell you they'll be nearby, but they will not interfere in this trial or aid you in any way." He took a business card out of his shirt pocket and let it fall to the floor. "That's the contact number of the senior council. Use it when you failed the trial." "Don't let the door hit you on the brain on the way out," I responded. Morgan glared at me as he left. He slammed the door behind him and stomped up the stairs. I started trembling maybe half a minute after he left, reaction to the stress. Or at least I hadn't done it in front of him. I turned around, leaned back against the door, my eyes closed, and folded my arms over my chest. It was easier not to feel myself shaking that way. Another minute or two passed before I heard Elaine move quietly out of my bedroom. The fire popped and crackled. Are they gone? Elaine asked, her voice very carefully steady. Yeah. Though I wouldn't put it past him to watch my place. I felt her fingers touch my shoulder. You're shaking, Harry. I'll be all right. You could have killed him, Elaine said when you first drew. Yeah. Was he really setting you up like you said? I looked at her. Her expression was worried. Yeah, I said. God, Harry, she shook her head. That's way past paranoia, and you want me to give myself to those people? I covered her hand with mine. Not to them, I said. Not everyone in the council's like that. She looked at my eyes for a moment, then carefully she drew her hand out from under mine. No, I'm not going to make myself vulnerable to men like that. Not again. Elaine, I protested. She shook her head. I'm leaving, Harry. She brushed her hair back from her face. Are you going to tell them? I took a deep breath. If the wardens found out that Elaine was still alive and avoiding them, there would be a literal witch hunt. The wardens weren't exactly known for their tolerance and understanding. Morgan was a walking, talking proof of that. Anyone who helped shield her from the wardens would get the same treatment. Didn't I already have enough problems? No, I said. Of course not. Elaine gave me a strained smile. Thank you, Harry. She lifted her staff closer to her, holding it with both hands. Can you get the door for me? They're going to be out there watching. I'll veil. They won't see me. They're good. She shrugged and said without emphasis, I'm better. I've had practice. I shook my head. What are we going to do about the fairies? I don't know, she said. I'll be in touch. How can I contact you? She nodded toward the door. I opened it. She stepped up beside me and kissed my cheek. Again, her lips warmed. You're the one with the office and the answering service. I'll contact you. Then she stepped to the door, murmuring quietly under her breath. There was a glitter of sudden silver light around her that made me blink. When I opened my eyes again, she was gone. I left the door open for a moment, and it was just as well that I did. Mister came padding back down the stairs a moment later and looked at me with a plaintive meow. He prowled back into the apartment, curling around my legs and purring like a diesel engine. Mister is 30 pounds or so of tomcat. I figured one of his parents must have been a saber-toothed tiger. Good timing, by the way, I told him, and shut the door, locking it. I stood in the dim, warm firelight of the room. My cheeks still tingled where Elaine had kissed it. I could smell her lingering perfume, and it brought with it a pang of almost tangible memories, a flood of things I thought I'd forgotten. It made me feel old, tired, and very alone. I walked to the mantel and straightened the card Susan had sent me the previous Christmas. I looked at her picture next to the card. She had been in a park that weekend, wearing a blue tank top and cut-off shorts. Her teeth were impossibly white against her darkly tanned skin and coal black hair. I had taken the picture while she was laughing. Her dark eyes shone. I shook my head. I'm tired, mister, I said. I'm ridiculously tired. Mister meowed at me. Well, resting would be the same thing to do, but who am I to throw stones, right? I mean, I'm talking to my cat. I scratched at my beard and nodded to myself. Just a minute on the couch, then to work. I remember sitting down on the couch, and after that, everything went blissfully black, which was just as well. The next day, things got complicated. Let's see, I'm looking at the time and seeing what I got. Okay, chapter 10. I wasn't too tired to dream. Evidently, my subconscious, we've met, and he's kind of a jerk, had something on his mind because the dream was variation on the theme that had taken up most of my sleeping hours since I'd last seen Susan. The dream began with a kiss. Susan has a gorgeous mouth, not too thin and not too full, always soft, always warm. When she kissed me, it was like the world went away. Nothing mattered but the touch of her lips on mine. I kissed the dream Susan, and she melted against me with a soft sound, the length of her body pliant and eager. Her fingers reached up and trailed over my chest, nails lightly raking. I leaned back from the kiss. After a long moment, my eyes felt almost too heavy to open. My lips quivered and tingled with a sensation, a feeling that begged for more kisses to make it cease. She looked up at me, her dark eyes smoldering. Her hair had been pulled back into a long silken tail that fell between her shoulder blades. It had grown longer in the dreams. Her lovely aquiline face tilted up toward mine. Are you all right? I asked her. I always did, and as always she gave me a small, sad smile and did not answer. I bit my lip. I'm still looking. I haven't given up. She shook her head and drew back from me. I had the presence of mind to look around a dark alley this time, with the heavy pounding music of a dance club making the nearest wall vibrate. Susan wore dark tights and a sleeveless blouse, and my black leather duster had been draped over her shoulders and fell to brush her feet. She looked at me intently and then turned toward the entrance of the club. Wait, I said. She walked to the door and turned back to me, extending her hand. The door opened and dim reddish light flooded out over her, doing odd things to the shadows of her face. Her dark eyes grew larger. No, that wasn't right. The black of her pupils simply expanded till the whites were gone, and until there was nothing but darkness where her eyes should have been. There were vampire eyes, huge and inhuman. I can't, I said. We can't go there, Susan. Her features grew frustrated, angry. She extended her hand again more forcefully. Hands came out of the darkness in the doorway, slim, pale, and androgynous. They slipped over Susan slowly, caressingly, tugging at her clothing and her hair. Her eyes fluttered closed for a moment, her body growing stiff before her weight shifted slowly toward the doorway. Longing shot through me, sudden, mindless, and sharp as a scalpel's blade. Hunger, a simple, clearly, and nearly violent need to touch and be touched, followed it to me. And I suddenly could not think. Don't, I said, and stepped toward her. I felt her hand take mine. I felt her press herself against me with another moan. Her lips, her mouth devoured mine with ravenous kisses. Kisses I answered with my own, harder, more demanding, as my doubts faded. I felt it when her kiss turned poisonous, when the sudden narcotic numbness swept through my mouth and began to spread through my body. It didn't make any difference. I kissed her, tore her close, and she tore at mine. The hands helped, but I didn't pay attention to them anymore. They were an unimportant background sensation in comparison to Susan's mouth, her hands, her skin velvet and warm beneath my fingers. There was no romance, nothing but need, animal, carnal. I pushed her against the wall in dim scarlet light, and she wrapped herself around me, frantic, her body urging me on. I pressed into her, a sudden sensation of silk and honey, and had to fight for control, throwing my head back. She quivered then, and as always, she struck. Her mouth closed on my throat, a flash of heat and agony that melted in narcotic bliss like that of her kiss, but more complete. The languid delight spread through me, and I felt my body reacting, all traces of control gone. I'm actually going to skip that part, because that's kind of... The pleasure of her venom melted my thoughts, and they slid free of my flesh, floating over the ground. I looked down on my body beneath Susan, pale and still on the floor, eyes empty. I saw the change take her. I saw her body twist and buck, saw her skin split and rip open. I saw something dark and horrible tear its way out, all gaping dark eyes and slippery black hide. Blood, my blood, smeared its mouth. The creature froze in shock, staring down at my corpse, and as I began to drift away, the creature drew back its head, its body rubbery and sinuous as a snake's, and let out an inhuman screeching yowl full of rage, pain, and need. I bolted up out of sleep with a short cry, my skin sheathed in cold sweat and my muscles aching and stiff. I panted for a moment, looking around at my apartment, my lips tingled with remembered kisses and my skin with dream caresses. I forced myself to my feet with a groan and staggered toward my shower. There were times it was just as well I had disconnected the water heater to head off magically inspired mishaps. It made bathing sheer torture in the winter, but sometimes there's no substitute for a cold shower. I stripped and stood under the chilly water for a while, shaking, not necessarily from cold either. I shook with a lot of things, first with raw and mindless lust. The shower took the edge off that in a few moments. Don't get me wrong, I didn't have any particular death sex fixation, but I'd been used to a certain amount of friendly tension relieving with Susan. Her absence had killed that for me completely, except for rare moments during the damn dreams when my hormones came raging back to the front of my thoughts again, as though making up for lost time. Second, I trembled with fear. My nightmares might be one part lusty dream, but they were also warnings. Susan's curse could kill me and destroy her. I couldn't forget that. And finally, I shook with guilt. If I hadn't let her down, maybe she wouldn't be in this mess. She was gone, and I didn't have the vaguest idea where she was. I should have been doing more. I stuck my head in the water and shoved those thoughts away, washing myself off with a ton of soap and last shampoo in the bottle. I scrubbed at my beard and finally reached out and got my straight razor, and then spent a few minutes and a lot of care removing it. Dark, wiry black hair fell in clumps to the shower floor, and my face tingled as it breathed its first air in a couple months. But it felt good, and as I went through the routine of grooming, my thoughts cleared. I dug some clean clothes out of my closet, padded out into the living room, and pulled back the rug that covered the trapdoor leading to the sub-basement. I swung the door open, lit a candle, and descended the step-ladder staircase to my lab. My lab, in contrast to the havoc upstairs, looked like something run by a particularly anal-retentive military clerk. A long table ran down the middle of the room between a pair of other tables, one on either wall, leaving only narrow walkways. White steel wire shelves on the walls held a host of magical components I used in research. They resided in a variety of jars, bottles, boxes, and plastic containers, most with labels listing the contents, how much was left, and when I acquired them. The tables were clean except for stacks of notes, a jar of pens and pencils, and myriad candles. I lit a few of them and walked down to the other end of the lab, checking the copper summoning circle set into the floor, making sure that nothing lay across it. You never know when a magic circle would come in handy. One area of the lab had retained the casual chaos that had been its major theme before I'd taken up nearly full-time residence last year. One shelf, still battered old wood, hadn't been changed or updated. Candle holders covered in multiple shades of melted wax that had spilled down over them sat on either end of the shelf. Between them was a scattering of various articles, a number of battered paperback romances, several Victoria's Secret catalogs, and a scarlet scrap of silk ribbon that had been tied into a bow on a naked young woman named Justine. one bracelet from a broken set of handcuffs and a bleached old human skull. Bob, wake up, I said, lighting candles. I need to pick your brain. Lights, orange and nebulous, kindled deep in the shadows of the skull's eye sockets. The skull quivered a little bit on the shelf and stretched its toothy mouth open in approximation of a yawn. So the kid was right. Was there some portent-type actions going on? Rain of toads, I said. Real ones? Yeah. Ouch, said Bob the skull. Bob wasn't really a skull. The skull was just a vessel for the spirit of intellect that resided inside and helped me keep track of the constantly evolving metaphysical laws that govern the use of magic. But Bob the skull is a lot easier to say than Bob the spirit of an intellect and lab assistant. I nodded, breaking out my Bunsen burners and beakers. Tell me about it. Look, Bob, I've got a kind of difficult situation here. Harry, you aren't going to be able to do this. There is no cure for vampirism. I like Susan too, but it can't be done. You think people haven't looked for a cure before now? I haven't looked for one before now, I said, and I've had a couple ideas that I want to look at. Aye, Captain Ahab. Arr, har, har. We'll get that white devil, sir. Damn right we will, but we've got something else to do first. Bob's eyelights brightened. You mean something other than a hopeless, pointless vampire research? I'm already interested. Does it have to do with the rain of toads? I frowned and got out a pad and paper and pencil and started scratching things down. Sometimes that helped me sort things out. Maybe I've got a murder investigation. Gotcha. Who's the corpse? Artist Ronald Rule. Bob's eyelights burned down to twin points. Ah, who's asking you to find the killer? We don't know how we don't know he was killed. Cops say it was an accident. But you think differently. I shook my head. I don't know a thing about it, but Mom says he was killed. She wants me to find the killer and prove that it wasn't her. Bob fell into a shocked silence nearly a minute long. My pen scratched on the paper until Bob blurted, Mob? The mob, Harry. Yeah, Queen of Air and Darkness, that mob. Yeah, I said impatient. And she's your client? Yes, Bob. Here's why I asked, why don't you spend your time doing something safer and more boring, like maybe administering suppositories to rabid gorillas? I live for challenge, I said. Or you don't, as the case may be, Bob said brightly. Harry, I've told you once and I've told you 1,000 times. You don't get tangled up with the she. It's always more complicated than you thought it would be. Thanks for the advice, Skullboy. It wasn't like I had a choice. Leah sold her my debt. Then you should have traded her something for your freedom, Bob said. You know, stolen an extra baby or something and given it to her. Stolen a baby? I'm in enough trouble already. Well, if you weren't such a goody two-shoes all the time. I pushed at the bridge of my nose with my thumb. This was going to be one of those conversations that gave me a headache. I could tell already. Look, Bob, can we stick to the subject, please? Time is important, so let's get to work. I need to know why Ruel would have been knocked off. Gee whiz, Harry, Bob said. Maybe it's because he was the Summer Knight. And on that little note, we do have an ad break. And bear with us, those of you that are on YouTube currently, I do apologize. Unfortunately, that is it's a unfortunate side effect of streaming on Twitch where we have the ad breaks. But please stay tuned and hang out and things of that nature. For those of you that are still hanging out and lurking and what have you, let me give the YouTube channel link. I'm gonna take a little stretch break. Bear with me 1 second. There'll be a moment of, like, maybe not even a minute of silence for just 1 second. Sorry about that. Just had to take a little. We got about a minute and 5 seconds left in the ad break. I just want to let you guys know we will be doing some cozy gaming right after this. After this section. I wasn't sure if that was thunder or somebody's vehicle. I don't think we're scheduled for any kind of weather. I don't think. And like I said, I always clean out stuff while I'm waiting for the ad breaks. And we're back from the ad break. Let us continue this wonderful chapter. This will probably be the last chapter for today. So, and of course, we'll take up again next Wednesday, of course. My pencil fell out of my fingers and rolled onto the table. Whoa. I said, "Are you sure?" "What do you think?" Bob replied, somehow putting a sneer into the words. I said, "This means trouble." It means that the things with the sheet are more complicated than you thought. Gee, if only someone warned you at some point not to be an idiot and go making deals. Why is it that Bob suddenly is Billy Butcher all of a sudden? I don't get it, but anyway. I gave the skull a sour look and recovered my pencil. "How much trouble am I in?" "A lot," Bob said. "The knights are entrusted with power by the she courts. They're tough." "I don't know much about them," I confessed. "They're some kind of representative of the fairies, right?" "Don't call them that to their faces, Harry. They don't like it any more than you like being called an ape." "Just tell me what I'm dealing with." Bob's eyelids narrowed until they were almost went out, and then brightened after a moment as the skull began to speak. "A she knight is mortal," Bob said, "a champion of one of the she courts. He gets powers in line with his court, and he's the only one who's allowed to act in affairs not directly related to the she. Meaning that if one of the queens wants an outsider dead, her knight's a trigger man." I frowned. "Hang on a minute. You mean that the queens can't personally gun down anyone who isn't in their court?" "Not unless the target does something stupid, like make an open-ended bargain without even trying to trade a baby for—" "Off topic, Bob. Do I or don't I have to worry about getting killed this time around?" "Of course you do," Bob said in a cheerful tone. "It just means that if the queen isn't allowed to actually personally end your life. They could, however, trick you into walking into quicksand and watch you drown, turn you into a stag and set hounds after you, bind you into a enchanted sleep for a few hundred years, that kind of thing. I guess it's too good to be true, but my point is, if Ruel was a Summer Knight, Mob couldn't have killed him, right? So why should she be under suspicion?" "Because she could have done it indirectly, and Harry, odds are that she don't really care about Ruel's murder. Knights come and go like paper cups. I guess they were upset about something else. The only thing they really care about. Power, I guessed. See, you can use your brain when you want to." I shook my head. Mob said something had been taken, and that I'd know what it was. I muttered, "I guess that's it. How much power are we talking about?" "A knight of the she is no pushover, Harry," Bob said, his tone earnest. "So we're talking about a lot of magic going AWOL, grand theft mojo." I drummed my pen on the table. "Where does power come from originally?" "The queens," I frowned. "Tell me if I'm off track here. If it comes from the queens, it's part of them, right? If a knight dies, the power should snap back to the queen like it was on a rubber band." "Exactly. But this time it didn't, so the Summer Queen is missing a load of power. She's been weakened." "If everything you've told me is true, yes," Bob said. "There's no more balance between summer and winter. Hell, that could explain the toads. That's a serious play of forces, isn't it?" Bob rolled his eyelids. "The turning of the seasons? Duh, Harry. The she are closer to the mortal world than any other beings in the Never Never. Summer's had a slight edge for a while now, but it looks like they've lost it." And here I thought global warming was due to cow farts. I shook my head. "So Titania loses a bunch of juice, and naturally suspicion falls on her archenemy Mob." "Yeah, it is kind of an archenemy-ish kind of thing to do, you have to admit." "I guess." I frowned down at my nose. "Bob, what happens if this imbalance between the courts continues?" "Bad things," Bob said. "It will mess around with the weather patterns, cause aberrant behavior in plants and animals, and sooner or later the she courts will go to war with one another." "Why?" "Because, Harry, when balance is destroyed, the only things the queens can do is to blow everything to flinders and let it settle out into a natural distribution again." "So what does that mean to me?" I asked. "Depends on who has the edge when everything's settled." Bob said, a war could start in the next ice age or set off an era of rampant growth. Well, that last one doesn't sound so bad. No, not if you're an Ebola virus. You'll have lots of friends. Oh, bad then. Yeah, Bob said. Keep in mind that this is theory, though. I've never seen it happen. I haven't existed that long. But it's something the Queens will want to avoid if they can. Which explains Bob's interest in this if she didn't do it. Even if she did, Bob corrected me. Did she ever actually tell you she was innocent? I mulled it over for a moment. No, I said. Finally, she twisted things around a lot. So it's possible that she did do it, or had it done at any rate. Right, I said. So to find out if it was one of the Queens, we need to find her hitter. How tough would it be to kill one of those knights? A flight of stairs wouldn't do it. A couple of flights of stairs wouldn't do it. Maybe if he went on an elevator ride with you. Very funny, I said, drumming my pen on the table. So it would take a little something extra to take out Ruel. Who could manage it? Regular folks couldn't do it. But they wouldn't be able to do it without burning buildings and smoking craters and so on. To kill him would... So that would look like an accident? Maybe another knight could. Among the she, it was either the Winter Knight or one of the Queens. Could a wizard do it? That goes without saying. But you'd have to be a pretty brawny wizard to have plenty of preparation and a good channel to him. Even then, smoking craters would be easier than an accident. The wizards have all been in duck and cover mode lately, and there are too many of them to make a practical suspect pool. Let's assume that it's probably internal fairy stuff. That cuts it down to 3 suspects. 3? The 3 people who could have managed it. Summer Queen, Winter Knight. 1, 2, 3. Harry, I said it could have been one of the Queens. I blinked up at the skull. There are more than 2? Technically, there are 3. 3 in each court. 3 queens in each court? 6? That's just silly. Not if you think about it. Each court has 3 queens. The queen who was, the queen who is, and the queen who is to come. Great. Which one does the knight work for? All of them. It's kind of a group thing. He has different duties to each queen. I felt the headache start at the base of my neck, creep toward the crown of my head. Okay, Bob, I need to know about these queens. Which ones? The ones who are, were, or who are to come? I stared at the skull for a second while the headache settled comfortably in. There's got to be a simpler parlance than that. That's so typical. You won't steal a baby, but you're too lazy to conjugate. Hey, I said, my sex life has nothing to do... Conjugate, Harry. Oh, why do I even bother? The queen is just the queen. Queen Titania, Queen Mob. The queen who was is called the mother. The queen who is to come is known as the lady. Right now, the winter lady is Maeve. The summer lady is Aurora. Lady, queen, mother. Gotcha. I got a pencil and wrote it down just to help me keep it straight, including the names. So 6 people who might have managed it. Plus the winter knight. Bob said, in theory. Right, so I said 7. I wrote down the titles and then tapped the notebook thoughtfully and said, 8. 8, Bob said. I took a deep breath and said, Elaine's alive. She's on the investigation for Summer. Wow, Bob said. Wow, and I told you so. I know. You think she might have gacked Rule? No, but I never saw it coming when she and Justin came after me either. I only need to think about if she had the means to do it. I mean, if you think it would have been tough for me, maybe she wasn't capable of taking down Ruel. I was always a lot stronger than her. Yes, Bob said, but she was better than you. She had a lot going for her that you didn't. Grace, style, elegance, breasts. I rolled my eyes. So she's on the list until I can find some reason she shouldn't be. How jaded and logical of you, Harry. I'm almost proud. I turned to the folder Mob had given me and went through the newspaper clippings inside. Any idea who the winter knight is? Nope, sorry, Bob said. My contacts on the winter side was kind of sketchy. Okay, then I sighed and picked up the notebook. I know what I need to do. This should be good, Bob said dryly. Bite me. I have to find out more about Ruel, who was close to him. Maybe someone saw something. If the police assumed an accident, I doubt that there was an investigation. Bob nodded, somehow managing to look thoughtful. So are you going to take an ad in the paper or what? I went around the lab and started snuffing candles. I thought I'd try a little breaking and entering. Then I'll go to his funeral and see who shows. Gosh, can I do fun things like you when I grow up? I snorted and turned to the stepladder, taking my last lit candle with me. Harry, Bob said just before I left him. I stopped and looked back at him. For what it's worth, be careful. If I hadn't known any better, I'd said Bob the skull was almost shaking. You're an idiot about women, and you have no idea what Mob is capable of. I looked at him for a moment, his orange eyes the only light in the dimness of my frenetically neat lab. It sent a little shiver through me. Then I clumped back up the stepladder and went out to borrow trouble. Okay. Chapter 11 is kind of short. Maybe I'll squeeze that one in too. Give me a second. Let me take a drink. I started about 30 minutes late, so. Chapter 11. I made a couple of phone calls, slapped a few things into a nylon backpack, and sallied forth to break into Ronald Ruel's apartment. Ruel had lived in the south edge of the loop in a building that looked like it had once been a theater. The lobby yawned up to a high ceiling, was spacious and pretty enough, but it left me looking for the velvet ropes and listening for the disorganized squawking of an orchestra warming up its instruments. I walked in wearing a hat with an FTD logo and carrying a long white flower box under one arm. I nodded to an aging security guard at the desk and went on past him to the stairs, my steps purposeful. You'd be surprised how far a hat, a box, and a confident stride can get you. I took the stairs up to Ruel's apartment on the 3rd floor. I went up them slowly, my wizard senses open, on the lookout for any energies that might yet be lingering around the site of the old man's death. I paused for a moment over the spot where Ruel's body had been found, to be sure, but there was nothing. If a lot of magic can be put to use in Ruel's murders, someone had covered its tracks impressively. I went the rest of the way up to the 3rd floor, but it wasn't until I opened the door to the 3rd floor hallway that my instincts warned me that I was not alone. I froze the door from the stairway only half open and listened. Listening isn't particularly hard. I'm not even sure it's all that magical. I can't explain it well, other than say that I'm able to block out everything but what I hear and pick up things I would normally miss. It's a skill that not many people have these days, and one that's been useful to me more than once. This time I was able to listen to half-whispered basso curse and the rustle of papers from somewhere down the hall. I opened the flower box and drew out my blasting rod, then checked my shield bracelet. All in all, in close quarters like this, I would have preferred a gun to my blasting rod, but I had a hell of a time explaining to security or the police if they caught me snooping around a dead man's apartment. I tightened my grip on my rod and slid quietly down the hall, hoping I wouldn't need it to use it. Believe it or not, my first instinct isn't always to set things on fire. The door to Ruel's apartment stood half open. Its pale wood glared where it had been freshly splintered. My heart sped up. It looked like someone had beaten me to Ruel's place. It meant that I must have been on the right track. It also meant that whoever it was would probably not be thrilled to see me. I crept to the door and peered inside. What I could see of the apartment could have been imported from 429B Baker Street. Dark woods, fancy scrollwork, and patterns of cloth busier than the makeup girl at a Kiss concert, filled with every available inch of space of Victorian splendor. Or rather, it once had. Now the place looked wrecked. A sideboard stood denuded from its drawers, which lay upturned on the floor. An old steamer chest lay on its side, its lid torn off, its contents scattered onto the carpet. An open door showed me that its bedroom hadn't been spared the rough stuff either. Clothes and broken bits of finery had laid strewn about everywhere. The man inside Ruel's apartment looked like a catalog model for Thugs R Us. He stood a hand taller than me, and I couldn't tell whether his shoulders left off and his neck began. I love that. He wore old frayed breeches, a sweater with worn elbows, and a hat that looked like an import from the Depression-era Bowery. A round bowler decorated with a dark gray band. He carried a worn leather satchel in one meat slab hand. With the other, he scooped up pieces of paper, maybe index cards, from a shoebox on an old writing desk, deposited him in the bag. The satchel bulged, but he kept adding more to it with rapid, sharp motions. He merged something else, emitted a low rumble, and snatched up a Rolodex from the desk, cramming it into the satchel. I drew back from the door and put my back against the wall. There wasn't any time to waste, but I had to figure out what to do. If someone had shown up at Ruel's place to start swiping papers, it meant that Ruel had been hiding evidence of one kind or another. Therefore, I needed to see whatever it was Kong had in the satchel. Somehow, I doubt he would show me if I asked him pretty please, but I didn't like my other option either. In such tight quarters and with other residents nearby, I didn't dare resort to any of my kaboom magic. Kaboom magic or evocation is difficult to master, and I'm not very good at it. Even with my blasting rod as a focus, I had accidentally dealt out structural damage to a number of buildings. So far, I'd been lucky enough not to kill myself. I didn't want to push it if I didn't have to. Of course, I could always jump the thug and try to take his bag away. I had a feeling I'd be introduced to a whole new realms of physical discomfort, but I could try it. I took another peek at the thug. With one hand, he casually lifted a sofa that had to weigh a couple 100 pounds and peered under it. I drew back from the door again. Fisticuffs, bad idea. Definitely bad idea. I chewed my lip for A little bit more, then I slipped the blasting rod back into the flower box, squared up my FTD hat, stepped around the corner, and knocked it on the half-open door. Oh, God, he's going to do the Blazing Saddles thing. Oh, God. The thug's head snapped toward me along with more of his shoulders. He bared his teeth, anger in his eyes. FTD, I said, trying to keep my voice bland. I got a delivery here for Mr. Ruel. You want to sign for it? The thug glowered at me from beneath the shelter of his overhanging brow. Flowers, he rumbled a minute later. Yeah, buddy, I said flowers. I came into the apartment and thrust the clipboard at him, idly wishing I had some gum to chomp. Sign there at the bottom. He glowered at me for a moment longer before accepting the clipboard. Ruel ain't here. Like I care. I pushed the pen at him with the other hand. Just sign it and I'll get going. This time he glared at the pen, then at me. Then he set the satchel on the coffee table. Whatever. Great. I stepped past him and put the flower box down on the table. He clutched the pen in his fist and scrawled on the bottom of the paper. I reached down one hand, and as he did, plucked a piece of paper a little bigger than a playing card from the satchel and palmed it. I got my hand back to my side just before he finished, growled and shoved the clipboard at me. Now, he said, leave. You bet. I told him, thanks. I turned to go, but his hand shot out and his fingers clamped on my arm like a steel band. I looked back. He narrowed his eyes, nostrils flaring, then growled, I don't smell flowers. The bottom fell out of my stomach, but I tried to keep the bluff going. What are you talking about, Mr. I glanced down at the clipboard. Grum? Mr. Grum? He leaned down closer to me, and his nostrils flared again, this time with a low snuffling sound. I smell magic. Smell wizard. My smile must have turned green to go with my face. Grum took my throat in one hand and lifted me straight up off the ground with a strength no human could duplicate. My vision reduced itself to a hazy tone on the clipboard fell from my fingers. I struggled against him uselessly. His eyes narrowed and he bared more teeth in a slow smile. Should have minded your own business, whoever you are. His fingers started tightening and I thought I heard something crackle and pop. I had to hope it was his knuckles instead of my trachea. Whoever you were. It was far too late. It was too late by far to use my shield bracelet. My blasting rod lay out of reach on the coffee table. I fumbled in my pocket as my vision started to go black for the only weapon I had left. I had to pray that I was right in my guess. I found the old iron nail. I gripped it as best I could and shoved it hard at Grum's beefy forearm. The nail bit into his flesh. He screamed, a throaty basso that shook the walls. He flinched and spun, hurling me away from him. I hit the door to Ruel's bedroom, slamming it all the way open, and got lucky. I landed on the bed rather than one of those wooden pillars at its corners. If I'd hit one of those, I'd have broken my back. Instead, I hit the bed, bounced, fetched up hard against the wall, and then tumbled back to the bed again. I glanced up to see that Grum looked very different than he had a moment before. Rather than the film noir tough guy get-up, he wore a loincloth of some kind of pale leather and nothing more. His skin was a dark russet, lettered with muscle and curling dark hair. His ears stood out from the sides of his head like satellite dishes. His features were flat and becoming more bestial, nearly like those of a gorilla. He was also better than 12 feet tall. He had to hunch over to stand, even so his shoulders pressed against the 10-foot ceiling. With another roar, Grum tore the nail from his arm and flung it to one side. It went completely through the wall, leaving a hole the size of my thumb. Then he spun back to me, baring teeth now huge and jagged, took a stalking step for me. The floor creaking beneath his feet. Ogre, I wheezed. Crap! I extended my hand toward the blasting rod and focused my will. Ventus Servatus! A sudden and sharp torrent of air caught up the flower box and hurled it straight toward me. It hit me in the chest hard enough to hurt, but I snatched it, brought out my blasting rod, and trained it on Grum as he closed on me. I slammed more will through the rod, its tip bursting into scarlet incandescence. Fuego! I barked as I released the energy. Fire in a column the size of my clenched fist flashed out at Grum and splashed against his chest. It didn't slow him down, not by a second. His skin didn't burn, his hair didn't even singe. The fire of my magic spilled over and did absolutely nothing. Grum shouldered his way through the bedroom door, cracking the frame as he did, and raised his fist. He slammed it down at the bed, but I didn't wait around to meet it. I flopped over to the far side of the bed and tumbled down to the space between the bed and the wall. He reached for me, but I rolled underneath the bed, bumped against his feet, and scrambled toward the door. I almost made it, but something heavy and hard slammed against my legs, taking them out from under me and knocking me down. I only had time to realize dimly that Grum had picked up an antique Victorian chair that resembled more than anything a throne and hurled it at me. The pain kicked in a second later, but I crawled toward the door. The ogre's feet pounded in rapid succession, and the floor shook as he grew closer and closer to me. From the hall, a querulous female voice demanded, "What's all that racket? I've already called the police. I have. You fruits get out. You fruits get out of our hall, or they'll lock you away." Grum stopped. I saw frustration and rage flicker over his ape-like features, and he snarled, stepped over me, and picked up the satchel. When he headed for the door, I rolled out of his way. He was big enough to simply crush my chest if he stepped on me, and I didn't want to make it easy for him. You got lucky, the ogre growled, but this is not over. Then his form blurred and shifted, growing smaller until he wore the same appearance he had a few moments before. He settled his boulder with one hand and stalked out the door, aiming a kick at me in passing. I cringed away from it, and he was gone. Well, demanded the same voice, what's it going to be, you fruit? Get out. Why is he calling him a fruit? I don't get it. Police sirens wailed somewhere outside. I got up, wobbled for a moment, put my hand against the wall to help myself stay up. I turned the other hand over to look at the piece of paper I'd stolen from Grum's satchel. It wasn't paper. It was a photograph, nothing fancy. Just an instant camera shot. It showed old white-haired Ruel standing in front of the Magic Castle of one of the Disney parks. Several young people stood beside him and around him, smiling, sunburned, apparently happy. One was a tall, bull-necked young woman in faded jeans, and her hair dyed a shade of muddy green. She had a wide smile and a blunt, ugly face. Standing beside her was a girl who should have been in a lingerie catalog, all curves and long limbs in her brief shorts and bikini top, her hair also green, but the color of the summer grass rather than that of pond scum. On the other side of Ruel was a pair of young men. One of them, a short, stocky fellow with a goatee and sunglasses, had his fingers lifted into a V behind his head of his companion. A small, slender man with his skin sunburned to the color of copper and his blond hair bleached out to nearly white. Who were they? Why had Ruel been with them, and why had Grum seemed so intent on removing their picture from Ruel's apartment? The sirens grew closer, and if I didn't want to get locked up by some well-meaning member of Chicago's finest, I needed to leave. I rubbed my aching throat, winced at the wrenching, cramping pain in my back, and wondered about the photograph and stumbled out of the building. All right, guys. And yes, that little marker does indicate that it is the 2-hour mark. What? Why is my stool suddenly like this? Okay, and apparently one of the feet came out of it too. Let me put that there. Alright, guys. That is where we're going to end the reading session for today. I need to take a brief break anyway to stretch to do my little 2-hour rest break. I also need to take the pupper out for her afternoon walk. But I will be back with more exciting stuff, more cozy stuff. I think today is going to be a little bit of I'm kind of making up for the fact that I'm not going to be streaming Friday, so I think I'm going to do a simulation game today. So, I'm probably going to do some Supermarket Sim for the last hour and a half of the stream, and then we'll find a raid target. So, hang loose, and for those of you on YouTube, just continue to hang out. I'll be right back after these messages in 2 and 2. I'll catch y'all in a few. And I'm back. Let's see here. Boop. Booped. Beak and beak. And welcome back, you two folks as well. Whew. Let me refresh everything. Okay, actually. I like to refresh the YouTube stream every so often. There we go. And we're back. Like I said, as promised, we're going to be doing this probably for the next couple hours or so, give or take. I just put food on to cook, so I've got at least an hour, if not an hour and a half. I'm making my chicken dish, so it needs about an hour to cook, so. And there's at least 10 minutes for preheat. But you would no. As you can tell, I've kind of gotten back to where I was. Boop. And I like to do it. I like to hang out and talk to folks while I'm doing this because, and by the way, I didn't even, by the way, Anubis, you're being very distracting, dude. Anyway, I'm going to be, getting up early for that. I have a, okay, let me start over. Anubis, would you stop? He is just like, seriously needy right now. Dude, chill. Anyway, as I was trying to say, in the morning, I have to be up early in the morning because there is a service in town who is delivering for donations. They're picking up donations, I should say. And, they're going to be out picking up stuff as early as 8 in the morning. So I have to be kind of up early tomorrow. And I have my donation ready to go. I'm going to sit it on the top step of my porch. Hopefully they're wise enough to realize that that's what that is. And I'm going to be doing a lot of applications. I'm going to be finishing my taxes. And a lot of stuff tomorrow before therapy, so I might, depending on how nice the weather is out there, I might actually sit out there with it for a little bit just to see if they show up while I'm out there. Hopefully they're smart enough not to come like to the side of the road and just like, you know, go, And if they do, well, I guess I'll take the tag off and call it quits, but I gotta be up early in the morning. And then, yes, Anubis, what do you want? Lord have mercy, child. You've decided to be Captain Needy right now, huh? And no, you cannot get on the desk. Stop. No. Just no. I'm trying to conduct the stream here. You can't be the star all the time. I know you think you are, but you're just the mascot. Knock it off. I don't know whether he wants to watch the pretty colors of the game or he's just trying to horn in, but Anubis apparently wants to either be seen, heard, or looked at because he has just been... You knock my phone off again, I'm going to hurt you. He has been rowdy all of a sudden. I read the book for 2 hours. He didn't move from the living room. I come in here and start playing a game on stream, and it's like, hi, but hi, goober. Well, goober, I tell you, I love him to death. I do. And you're being a pest. I pet the kitty. I pet the pupper. Do I get to pet the pupper? No? Okay. It is insane. Sometimes between the two of them, I swear. But basically, off stream I actually ended up starting this game over, um, and I'm starting to get it back where I had it. And now he's like, "I'm leaving. I'm gonna be sold up. I'm gonna go play with my banana, or my sushi or toy or some sort." Now he's just stalking in yonder. I finally have a automatic. I have a self checkout. Thank God, because that way I can. Um, but yeah, I think seriously. I'm thinking seriously about doing Fallout 4 and um, and actually pursuing the story for once. So for Friday, and just make it Fallout Friday, you know. And this is why I have an automatic one. You know what really cracks me up is the online orders that are like within striking distance of the freaking building, and I'm like, dude, why can't you just walk here? I walked to you to bring it to you. Why can't you walk there to the shop? You lazy bitch. You lazy bitch. Why in the fuck are you bothering me? And I know there's vehicles to buy and stuff like that. Why? Because I'm not really seeing a need for it. I, I'm basically this wild person running down through the sidewalks going, wee. And that's why I have it. That's why I have a self checkout, because that way I can. Oh, too many. And take care of this one. But that way the self checkout's being handled while I'm gone. I didn't have the self checkout ready when it first started popping. I think it. See, got another one. When it first started popping, and so I had to like close the register and wait and come back, and then. But I hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. I'm just kind of vibing now. I hope everybody enjoyed the first 2 hours of stream. So, with the Adventures of Harry Dresden, we'll be doing that again next Wednesday as well. And of course, they're around the fucking block because fuckers slow, but. It's additional revenue. Oh, it's all good, buddy. Glad you can make it. Sorry you don't feel good. Yeah, all good. It's all good. It is all Gucci. All Gucci. I just shifted over to Supermarket Sim. We're just kind of chilling and having a good time. First 2 hours of reading, of course. I did start a little late on top of that, so all good. Wolfish came by and probably might be still lurking. Who knows? All is handled. All is good. All chilling and vibing. You know how that goes. Yeah. Um. I'm lost. I'm running around town. Just to make sure I don't have any more. Yep. Okay. I don't think anybody else is gonna check out through me, but you know, you never know. You never know. You can give yourself a shout out if you'd like. I don't know who we're gonna be raiding out to at the moment, but I've got chicken cooking in the oven right now. I actually did something really cool. I actually prepped and got my dinner ready before I even started streaming. Unfortunately, I had to use the last scrap of foil paper to cover it instead of actually putting it in the pan, so I have a pan to clean up, unfortunately. But unfortunately, shit happens, you know. I think that's everybody, I think. Hey, made a profit. Sweet. There we go. Yee. Yeah, you know the barbecue sauce dish I make? You know that doohickey? Yeah. I'm making that tonight. And turns out I pulled chicken that Thorn had bought, not necessarily what I had bought. So it's like 4 small pieces of chicken instead. So I'll have 2 for now, 2 for later. Yee. So I figured I'd do that. It'll take care. It'll actually take care. And plus, I have pasta left over from last night, so actually have. I'll have plenty of leftovers for the coming days and stuff. So. I gotta make rice when I get done, but it's cooking right now. Probably by the time stream's over, it'll be ready or just about there. So I don't know why I'm about to throw the empty box in here. Good Lord, what's wrong with me? And I've already made tea, so the tea is been cooling off in the fridge, so that's taken care of too. My donation bag is ready to go for tomorrow. I gotta get up early and have that sitting outside. Hopefully they'll know to pick it up from my porch, not the side of the fucking road. If not, oh well, I guess I'll have to splurge and figure out a way to get out to Goodwill or something. If they fuck it up, it's not my problem. But I actually added a few more pieces to it because there's a lot of those long sleeve shirts that I have in there that I just don't wear anymore, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm actually going to put them on there. And I actually bit down hard and donating stuff that I actually do not wear. I'm proud of myself for that. Wasn't easy, but sometimes you have to take out stuff that ain't you just ain't using anymore, you know. And like I said, I was tempted, and I got to looking back. I'm like, dude, I have so many hoodies I don't fucking wear, and I need to, but it hasn't really been cold enough, honestly, to pull any of them out. That's the bad part. Because usually I just cut straight back to. Oh, well, fuck you too, asshole. fine. I'm still getting ahead of you, though. Bad when you fighting your own freaking. But, and in the morning, I'm going to be filling out more applications and finishing my taxes because I got to get up so fucking early because of that. So I was like, well, So I was like, I might as well, you know. So. So I've already got a full day planned. I ain't even gone to sleep yet. So that and therapy and all that, you know. He just did that. All right, let's see how dumb he can be here. Wait for it. Okay. Just making sure. Let's see if I can beat him to it. Heh, fuck you. I only need this fucker to work while the store's open. I don't have to have him work while I can actually help. Suck it. Suck it, nerd. Just make sure that. Hang on before I do anything. Yep, that's what I thought. Dumb fuck. Anyway. Oh, that's good. Sorry if I'm moving fairly quick, but I want to. Shit. Hit the fucking railing. I don't know why we have a railing right there. I never understood that. Well, you know the reasoning why I don't have mine up, so. And even with things dying down, I'm still don't trust it enough for that, you know? So, without stating right off the bat why. Dumb bug. Good, good, good. I'm on the day. I've been sleeping 1,000 years, it seems. Okay. Gonna make a lot more money than that. Up inside. But since you missed the announcements and things, just wanted to let you know. Okay, why in the hell is it not letting me? What the fuck? Okay, there we go. For now. You got some. There's some space between you and that damn. There we go. That's better. Anyway, um, since you missed the announcements earlier, I'm gonna be busy tomorrow, per usual. I'm going to be streaming, possibly a story game on Friday. I'm thinking leaning heavily toward Fallout 4 and starting it for the final time. I'm actually going to finish that freaking game. Um, Saturday I'm working. What do you mean after work? I don't work. I work next Friday, not this Friday. That's all good. You're a week ahead. I'm off this Friday, and I work Saturday, and then but I'll be home before main event starts, and so we'll have main event, and then Sunday I'll be off. Basically, after that Saturday, I won't go back to work until the following Friday. If you'd like to snooze that, you can. Um, and then I'm going to be streaming Monday through Thursday. Oh, bloody hell. Give me a second. He always calls at the wrong times. And we're back. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm gonna run this day, and I think I'm gonna end early. There's been some there's been some troubling news. Uh, I prefer not to talk about it on stream. Uh, it's not direct; it's indirect. So, but I'll talk about it off stream. Let's just say Thorn's not going to be in a good way. So, I wouldn't think he would. Yeah, life got a life, exactly. Um, all I'm at liberty to say, I really don't want to say too much because I don't know if he want his personal doings on the interwebs, but to say this, just if y'all got any kind of deities, spirits, guides, whatever, he's going to need some strength in the next couple days. That's all I'm going to say right now. To pick things back up, like I said, got a lot planned for the next week and a half. Um, you know, all the gaming and all the stuff and all the things. And like I said, I'm still listening out for that other job. If I end up landing that job, I will probably end up becoming an evening streamer, would be my guess. Um, and streaming like, like 6 to blah, except I'm Mondays and Fridays, for reasons. Um, but yeah, I'm going to do this. I think we're going to raid out to pilot. I just saw that he went live, so that would probably be a decent raid target. I mean, I'm sorry to cut the stream short, but like I said, can't really speak about things as yet. Also, I'm just reluctant to talk about certain things because I don't want them to happen. Is that weird? It's like I want the best outcome possible, so I don't really want to put things out into the ether that haven't happened yet. So, because I'm hoping for the best. Because when you know, it's kind of like, oh, well, hopefully they'll, this will happen and that will happen. Hopefully that won't happen. So, you just kind of do that. Does that make sense? Oh, I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's like. But if anybody has any divine intervention, it'd be a really good time to do it right about now. So, but if anybody is friends of the community, if anybody is friends with friends that I know, that would be a really good time to. No, I can't fucking function here. Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Let's just say I want the outcome of what's going on to be a good one, and so that things won't be bad. But it's dicey right now. So. I'll be a man who will fight for your honor. I'll be besides, I haven't heard word on my end about any possible outcomes. So, as yet, trust me, I will know if I know. Then yeah, it's gonna happen. So. For the glory of love. You gotta love that Peter Cetera, yo. Hey, Foxy, how you doing? Yes, this is a good one. This is actually, I'm actually playing it on Game Pass. It's also on Steam as well. How you doing today? Can we get a shout out and things of that nature? I'm doing okay. Um, this is Supermarket Simulator. You can find it on Steam and on Xbox Game Pass. It's actually free on Xbox Game Pass. So if you want to give it a try, and I think there is a demo on Steam if you only have Steam though. So there is actually a demo available. I actually have it fairly automated at this point. This one, I think this one has a multiplayer aspect to it too, I do believe. So. I just haven't explored that. I don't remember because the first time I ever saw anybody play it, it was our friend Hoff. He's played it, and I think Steggy may have played it at one point too, on Steam. And then it got brought over to Game Pass, so you can actually play it on console and on PC now. The controls are a little wonky on console, just fair warning. Um, Actually, that's what's so lovely about this one. You actually have a quest where you have to buy a ball bat, and they provide one shoplifter for you. But you can also disable shoplifters if you don't want to have that hassle. So, yes, we get to beat up shoplifters on this, which is, I so wish that was a thing in real life. No doubt. If you decide to play this game, I'm gonna give some good advice. Focus on your storage before you focus on the quest line. Make sure you have plenty of storage. Make sure you have plenty of space in your supermarket, and focus on that ahead of the licenses until you feel like you're not making enough money. And always, and when you do price changes, make it within like 5 cents of the market price. That way, you're still making a profit, but yet at the same time, you're not going over. You're not making it too expensive for everybody else. And always wait till after 6 o'clock to turn your lights on, because you actually have a lower bill for that because of that. So that's just some little pieces of advice that I have actually picked up from researching on the interwebs. And also, stay open past 9 o'clock, because you actually get more customers. A lot of customers will actually, and you won't get any more online orders, but you'll get a lot more customers. So, and I am currently level 23, and I actually have a fully working self-checkout with helper that I pay per day. And I don't have that door open yet, and I will in the next thing, but I have a full working storage facility back here for the freight. So, I also have, is that lady standing outside, that's my janitor. She comes and cleans the windows, the picks up trash, etc. But yes, I do have a ball bat for shoplifters, but I have it turned off, so I don't have to worry about having to deal with that. The cool thing about this is that you can actually buy security antennas, security cameras, stuff like that. That way you don't have, I mean, if you wanted to, you could actually re-implement them and put them back in the game if you wanted to. I think that's everybody, so we're going to close the day out. And yes, see, I actually made a profit. But I know there's a fact of the matter is that there's actually, like right here, this is 224. I make it 220. I always have rounded up prices. And that was 260, so I make it 255. And then that way I make that over time, and then I go and help, quote unquote, the stalker. And I say quote unquote help because I just basically outrun them. I think Bunny's lurking. She's been. I'm also on YouTube as well. If you would like to, Bunny, if you would provide the YouTube link, it'd be great. I'm actually multi-streaming right now. So I'm actually on YouTube as well. And I'm also currently cooking food. That's how much I multitask. I actually have food cooking. I started up about 4 o'clock. It's cooking in the oven right now. Monday, Thursday, Wednesday, hard attack. But I move faster than the dude, so I usually sometimes I have as many as 2 when I actually get a lot more storage and a lot more I usually get 2 guys working. Stay in bed. I'm in love tonight. But basically I keep everything, and I stock a lot of different stuff too. Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm in love. Make it fall apart. Tuesday, Wednesday, break my heart. Wednesday, you don't even start. But I'll tell you the most annoying thing. And this is going to bug you, and you may end up having to fire and rehire because of this. Try to plan out your licenses to where you have the equipment and everything ready for it before you start a certain license, because you start trying to move stuff around and you have guys hired to stock. They are rabid about trying to get things stocked out from under you. It is insane, and they need to freaking fix that. Because if it's a customer, I understand, replenishment, but this is like replenishment on a rabid scale. It's like, and the reason I say it that way is because I've tried to move things around after I've hired dudes, and they're like, "Oh, let me try to fill this back up, dude, stop, god damn it, mother trucker." I'm like, dude, I got this. Leave me alone. See, like right there. But like I said, when you start moving things around, it's like, dude, oh shit, I did not mean to put it there. Okay. Whew. I made a miscue and almost put it in the wrong spot. Okay. I'm checking over everything while I'm doing this. Mm. Let's see if the bougie coffee is all filled up. Nope. And the bougie tea ain't filled up either. But but yeah, I mean, it's almost a rabid desire to fill stuff because it's like, oh, I got to fill this up. And the funny thing about it is that they will flagrantly leave stuff undone. It's like, this isn't full. Why did you stop? Silence. You know, it's like, I thought I did. Yeah. So it's so funny that when you're trying to move shit around, you can't stop them from fucking with you, but when you're trying not to, you know, when you're trying to, it's like, what? There we go. Yeet. Yeet. I drive the stock got crazy with doing this. Like, yeet. Yeet. I mean, I wouldn't do this in real life, I promise. It's just funnier this way. But when you're trying to restock, you can restock and help. But if you're trying to move stuff around, trying to make things look a little more organized, sometimes you just have to fire all your stock guys till you get done. Because if you're doing any kind of heavy duty moving stuff around, it's going to be a pain in the ass. Because as convenient as they are to help, it's a freaking headache. And what they ought to do is, like, if you're taking stuff off the shelf, they should just stay there and not move. They should have some kind of provision for that. It's like, I'm doing this. It's not a customer. Calm down. Calm your tits. It's okay. I promise. It's not that serious, bruh. That's some spooky shit right there. Just watching the box just go up and not know where the hell that came from. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. And they put it in the wrong freaking place. See, I try to have some, like, balance to my stocking. So I don't put everything in, like, one spot. Because that's how you end up getting... Also, too, if you ever run into it to where you're having to stock stuff and you accidentally overbuy, you'll end up basically he'll end up holding it in his arms and be rendered completely useless. I am saving that. Unfortunately, I'm ending out right now. Why is there? Oh, we also have a loaf to write out to if we chose. There's always that too. That's good. I actually have 3 or 4 rate targets. I have Loaf, I have Pilot, and I have A Chick because I actually followed her due to hanging out with, because she hangs out with Zan so much. No, it's okay. No, actually, Foxy, I'm actually ending a little early. I'm actually planning on going for another hour. But there's been some stuff that's been going on in real life that kind of happened. So I kind of have to end early. not due to me, by the way. It's due to friends of mine. So I wanted to be available in case they needed me. So that's the reason why I'm ending a little early. I usually go about 4 hours. No, it's okay. No, I just figured I'd fill you in. It's all good. Um, it's all good. I usually stream about 1:30 Mountain Time. Check your local listings, and I usually run till about 5:30. Some days I try to end out around five in time for wrestling, like Friday. Um, on Saturdays, like I said, it's usually about a 4 hour, and there's also the Discord if folks don't already have it. Um, and Bunny, remember this time to copy the right message. Buddy made a boo boo. It said stream yesterday. He was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "She's like, take it," because she was copy and pasting to YouTube. So, and speaking of, for those of you on YouTube, I will catch y'all on Friday. Y'all take care of yourselves and be positive and be safe. And I will see you then. And I'm just signing off from YouTube then. Give me a sec.